Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. Before we begin this meeting, we acknowledge that we're in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Huron-Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis peoples on this land and show respect to them today. As we've learned from our First Nation partners, I want to stress the importance of accepting our responsibility to take care of Mother Earth, her plants, her animals, and our shared peoples. We look to each other and the elders of both nations as a source of inspiration, guidance, and the living memory of our communities. As settlers on this land, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of the people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. So I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda. There was an extensive addendum circulated this afternoon. It includes significant correspondence and a resolution regarding the Near North School Board. So with those additions, could I have approval of the agenda? Thank you. And is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Nope. Okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of Council held on September 2nd, 2025 as circulated. Could I have a mover, Ken, and a seconder, please? Mary. All in favor? And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matters. Zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2025-0013-H and the official plan amendment application number OPA 2025-0003-H for Rosso Springs Limited. Consent application number 2025-0010-H for Schwartz, and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2025-0015-C and consent application number B 2025-0017-C for Manchi. Could I have a mover? Gail and Ted. All in favor of moving into a public meeting? Thank you. Council will now hold public meetings for proposed consent, zoning bylaw amendment, and official plan amendment applications. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to making decisions on applications. Anyone wishing to receive notice of a decision or notice of passing of an amendment and who has not submitted such a request in writing should provide your full name and address to the clerk. No one other than the prescribed persons may appeal an application under the provisions of the Planning Act. If they do not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin prior to the decision of Council, then the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. The purpose of official plan amendment application number OPA-2025-0003-H for Rosso Springs Limited is to modify policy B 12.2.5 of the Township of Seguin official plan to permit a 49-lot rural residential development to proceed by way of a plan of subdivision. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2025-0013-H is to implement the official plan amendment and rezone the subject lands from the rural zone to a site-specific rural residential exception zone. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the meeting was provided by posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on August 12th, 2025. Notice was therefore considered provided in accordance with requirements of the Planning Act.
I'm now going to ask the applicant if they have any presentation they would like to make. Please push the microphone button so it turns on green and introduce yourself with a full Canada Post mailing address.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, senior staff, and those in attendance. My name is Leo Deloyd. I'm with Deloyd Development Solutions. The address is 419 Surrey Drive, North Bay, Ontario, P1C 0A1. And I'm here to represent the applicant. I do have a presentation, Mr. Jeffries, so we can put that up. In the meantime, I'm the planner on the file, and I'm joined by the owners of Rosso Springs, mainly local folks. Holden Rhodes is the leader of the group. He's here, and the team will be able to answer any questions. We're also joined by Rebecca Gavreau, and she's our ecologist. There's, I'm sure, going to be some questions, and we'd be happy to answer those. And just want to thank MHBC for the report, and we have shared a lot of information. So I have a brief presentation and no video. So without any further ado, as you indicated, Mayor, we have 3 applications, 2 of which are the subject of today's public meeting, one being the official plan amendment, one being the zoning bylaw amendment, and the other application, which isn't subject to a public meeting, is the plan of subdivision. So we're presenting all of them all at once, so you have everything at your fingertips. We've done a lot of studies, and we're here to answer any questions and assist you in your deliberations. We did have a pre-meeting before we made the application in April in Rosso, well-attended meeting of about 50 people, and sorry? Sure.
We're trying to get everybody that's trying to watch on Zoom
Okay, no problem.
admitted. You know who everybody is? Okay.
We're good. Thank you. So in terms of today's presentation, it'll be brief, but we've done the introductions, and we're going to be talking about site location and description, the description of the applications in a little more detail. All the planning studies that were done, we've had a very transparent process where all material has been shared on the developer's website, as well as the material being shared through Seguin Township. So we appreciate that distribution. And then we're going to then talk a little bit about next steps and look forward to today's conversation. So in terms of the location and site, the site is located south of Highway 632, and portions of it straddle Maplehurst and Summit Drive. There has been some concern about Morgan Bay Road, but there is no connection with Morgan Bay Road at all. So Little Morgan Bay Road. So the site is 106 hectares in area, and only about a third of it is really proposed to be developed. This site is well located and very close to Rosso Village, where there's services. And the site is heavily wooded, as you can see, and secondary growth trees. Some of this area had been farmed in previous years. The land gently slopes toward Lake Rosso, and there's some attractive rock cliffs and outcrops and things that are very attractive in the area. The proposed new road, there will be one new road with a little over 30 lots connecting to Highway 632. So it's the bulk of the subdivision will be isolated in that sense. will not connect to Morgan Bay Road. And there's a extension of Summit Drive as well. So that is more of an infill type side of the development. The next slide shows, it's a little hard to see, I think, from the audience, but basically, this is a detailed subdivision design. The new road coming off of 632, adding additional lots infill-wise onto Maplehurst. And then Summit, there will be some additional dwellings proposed at the north end of Summit Drive. This is a better view of the subdivision shown on your GIS system. And it shows you can see proportionally that 70% of the land is being preserved in its natural state. 30% is proposed for roads and dwellings. In terms of the planning applications, the official plan designates this area rural, and the rural policies require amendment to accommodate this project. So there's been some concerns that have come to the fore that, well, it's not allowed under the official plan, and we're saying, well, we're applying to amend the official plan. So, but we have a full presentation to justify that. And so typically your official plan allows a number of consents per year. And what we're talking about is doing a plan of subdivision. I think from a municipality standpoint, a plan of subdivision is a lot more robust in terms of meeting requirements, subdivision agreements, that kind of thing, servicing. So that's why that is being proposed. So 49 lots are being proposed. The site is now zoned rural under the Seguin bylaw. And again, the lots are being proposed to be rezoned, not the whole area. So only the lots that are being created will be rezoned, and the rest of the area will remain rural. Basically, there's a little bit of EP in the south corner, but for the most part, maintaining the rural zoning. And then the plan of subdivision I've talked about is also being proposed. So you have all of that material. Lastly, there's been a lot of technical, environmental, housing needs studies, and they've all been shared online, and they're there to inform this public meeting. And we had that April 22nd meeting in the Rosso Memorial Hall. So having said that, the proposed 49 lot development is the main aspects are that it is an environment first design. That's one of the key principles of the Seguin official plan. And it certainly protects Lake Rosso, preserves natural areas, steep slopes, and wetlands. It improves housing choice. And I think that's one of the key aspects. There's been some documentation and anecdotal information. More housing is needed, particularly in East Seguin. And we've documented that, and we think that complies with the provincial policy statements. All of the lots will be privately serviced, and that there will be some recreational trails and courts provided. So without going into too much detail, there's been archaeological studies, stormwater studies, servicing studies, environmental studies, geotechnical. All those have been submitted and support the application. So having said that, we just have had some public feedback, and we're happy to comment on that now, or we can comment on it later. But we've talked about environment first. We've talked about environmental concerns. We've talked about compliance with the provincial policy statement, impacts, minimizing or avoiding impacts on Lake Rosso, traffic being certainly quite manageable. It's a relatively small number of lots spread over a large area. So those are some of the responses we have, and certainly the rural character. This will be the new road off 632 will be a relatively isolated area, and that rural character will be preserved, as will the natural heritage. So having said that, we're open for questions and comments, but that's our submission, Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're going to go through the process of a open public meeting. So we will first review the correspondence. Then people that are present in the council chambers will have an opportunity to speak. And then the people that are online will then have an opportunity to speak. I am going to ask everyone that speaks to be as brief as possible. If you wrote a letter and you are repeating what's in your correspondence, please don't repeat it. We've read it. It's in our council package. And if you agree with someone who's presented in prior to you, please simply state that. Don't repeat what has been already said. So I turn to the clerk. Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
Correspondence has been received from various parties and have been referenced in the staff report in the addendum package.
And is anyone present in the council chambers that would like to speak? I'm going to go row by row if I can. Again, be brief, be respectful, and no one can be interrupted. Whoever has the microphone is the only one authorized to speak. There will be no interruptions. So I'm going to start in the front row. People who wish to speak. Okay. Please push the green, so the green button goes on. Identify yourself and your Canada Post address.
Brian Slusser, 83 Little Morgan Bay Road, Rosso. I'm not going to spend too much time going through the unsuitability of the plan, because anybody who's read it or lives in this area will understand why we're not going to spend too much time on it. But if you look at what's happened in Minette and what's about to happen in Gravenhurst, you understand why all these people are here. Not every single bit of Muskoka has to be developed. Okay, this is not Toronto. We moved from Toronto here because we didn't want that. And don't be misled by when you see the package of, well, it's local people. I've run enough companies to know local face on out-of-town control, and that's what's happening here. It's profiteering, simply. That's all it is. The guys who support the deal from the contracting side of things, I understand. But they're going to make short-term money, and 30 years from now or 40 years from now, my kids and my grandkids are going to have to deal with it. And it's not right. As far as we pay an inordinate amount of taxes for what we get in Seguin. I mean, I own houses in multiple jurisdictions, but this is where I live. And for what we get, for what we pay on the mill rate, we don't get garbage pickup, we don't get sewer, we don't get water, we don't even get our roads plowed. Okay, it's a private road. But what we do have is an understanding that everybody sitting up there will, it's an unwritten understanding, but you will take care of our area. That's all that matters. That's why we live here. We don't live here because there's a Costco on the corner. We live here because I don't see anybody else. And I'm not anti-development. In our bay, there's been 2 monster developments built. They've been blasting for 3 years. Okay, houses, individual homes. So I'm not saying not in my backyard. What I'm saying is we don't walk through this area. I know there's trails through there, but we've never been up there. But I've taken a walk around it. This doesn't work. The people who have spent millions of dollars, okay, and not to make money on it. I'm never going to sell this place. My grandkids will never sell this place. But the guys who are selling these homes, they're going to be gone. And it's not a master development. Everybody's responsible for their own thing. So what happens if you get one idiot out of 49 or 2 idiots or 3 idiots? What's going to happen then? The development's going to be a mess and we have to deal with it. Right? So, you know, all I would say is there's a official plan for a reason. Stick to it. We got confidence that you'll do the right thing. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to the next row behind. I'll call it row 2 that has 3 people sitting in it. Do any of you want to speak? I'm talking about row number 2 where there's 3 gentlemen. No? Okay. Okay, let's have the public speak. The row behind them. Anybody here to speak? It's registered? No. Jamie? No. Okay, I'm going back to the next row. No. No, okay, just let me go through it in order, please. No, nobody in the next back 2 rows that wishes to speak? Okay, the woman in the pink, come on up and identify yourself and make sure the light on the microphone is on.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Can
name
you
is-
turn the microphone on? It's on? Okay. You can bend it. Push hard.
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Shaver, and I have been at Little Morgan Bay Road since before the roads had names and before there were power lines running through. When groceries used to be delivered by the grocery boat from the general store, and you had to be down at the water to get them because very few people had docks. Needless to say, a few things have changed in the intervening 70 years, but the things that make this area precious still remain. In the spring, the forest that you're talking about developing is alive with pink lady slipper orchids, anemones, trout lilies, Dutchman's breeches. And these are not flowers that are found everywhere. These are unique and very special. The water quality at the north end of the lake is very good. We still draw our water directly from the lake. We don't have to worry about toxic algae blooms like at the south end of the lake where development has increased the phosphorus in the water and the water quality is poor. The roads for us are peaceful, as the previous speaker spoke about. People walk along the roads with their dogs. If you hear a car coming, you can step to the side and exchange a wave as a vehicle passes. But all of this will change without the protection of the current official plan, which requires that development be compatible with the natural environment. 19 roads will be, or 19 properties will be connected to Maplehurst Road, I understand. There's currently a gravel road of perhaps 50 feet in from the top of the hill at my property, leading to what I suspect is a exploratory water well. So there is already linkage. I suspect there will be more. The dynamiting necessary to create 49 large 4-season homes will be creating dust and noise that I can't imagine. The dynamiting that has occurred for the 1 or 2 cottages was enough to create shockwaves to disengage our water line. And as you know, pumps don't respond well to be sucking in air. The wildlife would certainly be gone. Currently, deer transact our property and dawn and dusk go down to the lake for a drink. Barred owls occasionally land on the railing with their big, huge round faces. All of that would be gone with the dynamiting and the blasting necessary. Large homes require large septic beds. I would wonder if the space for courts, recreation courts and septic beds is included in that 30% that the developer spoke of. In short, If you amend the official plan so that it allows subdivision development off Little Morgan Bay Road, you will be endorsing a profound and enduring negative impact on the land, the water, and the forest environment that is not compatible with the land acknowledgement or the current land use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In that same row, is there anyone that wishes to speak? Is the light still on? Yeah, okay.
Good afternoon, Stephen Fauner, Northern Vision Planning Limited. I'm here representing the Lake Russell North Association, and I did write a letter, so I'm not planning to repeat that, but I do have a couple of clarifying statements as well, and another one. First of all, the notice of public meeting indicated that it was a plan of subdivision. The agenda today said plan of condominium. So we're probably going to end up with the same thing anyways, but I'm just suggesting it can be confusing for some people as to what the applications are. So.
I'll ask the clerk to respond to that.
I'll leave it to Jamie to correct me, but the meeting today is dealing with a zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment. Those are the two items being dealt with today.
Sorry. Through your worship, zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment are the purpose of today's meeting. They have submitted a plan of subdivision application as well. There hasn't been a condominium or anything submitted yet, but could happen. Depends on what ends up coming forward at the end of the day.
And
Okay,
that
thank you.
clarification was provided by Jamie Robinson of MHBC Planning.
Okay, no, thank you very much. One of the things in my letter, I spent some time, I guess, regarding OPA 12, but that was something that was recently approved. I failed to mention clergy principle, which would apply that they made their applications prior to that official plan amendment. I think, however, in both cases, though, there's a conformity issue because you sort of have two sets of rural policies in a way, an older one and a new one. The older one puts a limit as to the number of lots being created per year. I recognize that's by consent, but I would suggest that in my read of the official plan, it does not contemplate a plan of subdivision in the rural area. So I believe under the current official plan, there's conformity issues. If you're to look at your new set of policies, which you've recently done and gone through and done background work on, I would suggest it also doesn't fit within those policies as well. The other point I wanted to make, again, not to repeat what was in my letter, but it seems to me that it's being brought forward. Official plan amendment application seems to address everything. If I were to come forward and suggest that there would be a 10-story building on Lake Rosso or Whitefish Lake or wherever, does that mean if I bring an official plan amendment that it's good and it conforms to the OP? I would suggest you still need to look at the framework of the OP. You need to look at the principles of the OP. You can't just say, well, we've got an OPA, that's going to solve the problem. So it's much more to it than that. And I would suggest, again, this application does not conform to your official plan. So those are all the additional comments I'm going to say. I think the rest was in my letter. There's a number of things that, number of shortcomings to the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And anyone that wants to read all of the correspondence, it's in today's agenda package. Keep going on that row. Sorry, I have no other way to organize this.
Thank you, Your Worship. My name is Stephen Watt. I'm at 23 Mississauga Street West in Aurelia, and I've written a letter, so that information would be on the letter as well. Your Worship, members of council, senior staff, Mr. Robinson, I've been retained by the Lake Russell North Association as a lawyer to review the 3 land use applications that are before you from Rosso Springs, and to give our client some legal advice with respect to it. Oh, okay. How's that? Is that better?
Perhaps get closer
Got
to
a
the
green
microphone.
light.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. So I've been retained, I guess hopefully you heard that part, to act for the association in conjunction with Mr. Farner. And Mr. Farner filed, as you will have seen in your materials, a detailed letter in terms of, I think, 7 issues he finds with the OP and the PPS and impacts, environmental impacts, and then backs that up on the second and third or fourth page with specific policy references. So I won't push that. I am a municipal land use planning lawyer, and in addition to acting for private clients, I act for a number of municipalities, rural municipalities like yours, primarily in northeastern Ontario. I've got two brief themes I wanted to emphasize to council this afternoon, and they are contained in my letter, as I indicate, that was filed on September 11th. Firstly, as you've just heard from Mr. Fauner in terms of a summary, the ratepayers' position is really based on the substance of the expert report that was filed. I'm not here to give you evidence in terms of what policies may apply or not apply. That we submit is fully vetted in the materials that were provided to you, through Mr. Fauner. I can only state his conclusion, which is, in his expert opinion, that the applications must be refused and do not constitute proper planning. And the evidence that he has there is that the applications don't meet the intent of the existing Township of Seguin official plan. They're not consistent with the provincial policy statement, and they raise serious environmental Lake Rosso waterfront impact questions that are unresolved. So our position, briefly to you today, is that none of these serious planning flaws have been sufficiently addressed in the materials filed by the applicants to date. Under the Planning Act, we understand that council's here today and staff to listen, and we're confident that you will agree with the association when you have an opportunity to reflect on it, that the applications as currently filed must be refused. We appreciate that your staff and Mr. Robinson, as your consultant, will be preparing a final staff report and recommendation to council for consideration at a later date. And we take a significant comfort in that process working. I think that the second element that I want to touch briefly on without repeating my letter too much is that I do feel strongly as a lawyer that it's worth emphasizing that the Planning Act has changed as it relates to the Ontario Land Tribunal as of last summer. And I don't know how many applications, and no doubt your legal counsel's briefed you through your term on council. But it is significant from the point of view of someone like a ratepayers association, and these changes are hugely significant. So if I may just paraphrase what I placed in my letter on Friday, the new Planning Act as of June 2024 severely limits third parties such as the Lake Rosso North Association from initiating any direct appeals regarding the applications filed by Rosso Springs, or any applications, frankly. Generally speaking, the appeals can only legally be initiated by the approval authority, meaning you, or the registered owner of the lands, which of course is the applicant in this instance. So really, those are the two parties that have the legal authority to initiate an appeal. Ratepayer associations, or indeed any of the ratepayers who will be speaking later in this meeting or filed materials, despite participating in this process, no longer have any legal ability to generate an OLT appeal on their own. So that's important for us as representing property owners and a significant percentage of the local community, because it does point back to your process that you're going through in terms of how to deal with it. And our submission to you on that point is it's vitally important for council to refuse the Rosso Springs proposal outright, or potentially as a secondary alternative, not to make any decision one day or another for 120 days, because that's the provision in the Planning Act that triggers or places a legal onus on Rosso Springs to appeal council's refusal or council's failure to act should the applicants decide that they want to appeal beyond the local level to the OLT. If they do appeal, then the ratepayers, and indeed anybody here in this audience, does have an opportunity to participate in any hearing. They can apply to become a party, and certainly in the context of Mr. Fauner's expert evidence, et cetera, we'd be pretty comfortable making that application because we think we would be able to participate meaningfully at a hearing. and others would have the same opportunity. So the emphasis again becomes twofold in our view today. Just to summarize, there are significant planning problems with this application. Those are documented through our consultant. We need you to not approve this outright, because if you do, everybody here loses whatever opportunity they would otherwise have to participate in the process provincially. And those are my, subject to any questions, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can't tell if that row continues. People in the corner. No. Hmm? Nobody else? Oh, you want to speak? Okay. Okay, I'm going to go to those standing first. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Good? Yeah? No? Okay. My name is Turner Tobin. I'll be representing my family, 28 Bluff Drive, Rosso, Ontario, also Shady Island, due south of the development. I won't go over what I already submitted. I made a detailed set of recommendations, a set of comments. I also won't make a long-winded planning argument. However, I do have a couple of key risks and a couple of key red flags I'd like to highlight before council. This comes from somebody who works in the development industry. I'm typically pro-development, making an application such as this one. Definitely not this one, but same kind of, I'm clearly pro-development. So two major red flags I found when reading this application. One, the planning rationale makes a lot of long-term comments and commitments. Some of the kind of form letters that were made and submitted on behalf of this proposal were referencing the build quality, how it will be built long-term. And yet the website, as referenced by the planner earlier, Leo Deloyd, references in the frequently asked questions section that they're planning on selling lots raw unserviced. So any sort of long-term commitment I would look upon with a lot of scrutiny. So that's red flag number one. Red flag number two. So I pulled title, meaning I pulled ownership information of lot, I believe it's 6, the biggest lot. And in that title, which would have to be submitted formally through evidence in the OLT process, but I will reference what I personally got from this. It appears as though the owner, through a series of entities, has a charge registered against the land. Now, what that means for everyone in the room, if you have a charge and you enter into some sort of legal proceedings, maybe you did something wrong and you're trying to get held accountable for it in the court of law, usually your charge sits above a lawsuit. So if you get sued, but you're the one who owns the debt on the land, you get your money back before the lawsuit pays out. So again, if you're trying to hold a group accountable to a long-term vision, long-term decisions, and from the get-go, they've structured themselves in a way in which it's going to be very difficult to hold them accountable, I would look, I would scrutinize that, right? So those are the two major red flags. Three main risks, I would say. Risk number one, in terms of chronological order in which you'd reach them. So if they're not going to do the construction, they're just going to come in and do the grading, functionally demolish a forest. In that process, they might unwittingly cause environmental damages, in which case you'd want to hold them accountable. Go back to red flag number two. That would be a very difficult process for you to do. Risk number two, servicing. So say you go through this process, they actually get through and do the grading, sell the lots, and then it comes to actually servicing it. It's no guarantee that you're actually going to be able to service all these things, right? In the planning rationale, there was a comment, section 5.3 or 5.4, about the hydrogeological studies and the ample supply of potable water. If you actually read that hydrogeological report, there's a number of exceedances of things like E. coli, the water color, quality. So functionally, like you're pumping swamp water, and then you're going to add 49 individual septic tanks into this area, some of which, I'm not going to do too much of an environmental spiel, but like some of which you're setting back 5 meters from a water course, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So you're starting with swamp water, you're going to add 49 septic tanks in, and then you're going to leave it on the municipality to coordinate all of those like, building permits, right? Like, good luck if you want that. I certainly wouldn't want that headache. But more than that, say you're somebody who buys into this community. It's a significant amount of money to buy a lot. This is going to be your dream home. Hopefully you're going to retire there. And all of a sudden it's not buildable, not serviceable, and the municipality has to decide what gets serviced and what doesn't. That's going to be a nightmare, right? So that's another key risk. Third key risk, there's no guarantee of what's actually going to happen here. So common misconception, I'm sure you all are well aware, but common misconception that you're voting for the developer and the development that's going to happen. Clearly, we're voting for the zoning bylaw amendment, official plan amendment. So it's not about the developer. It's not about the development, right? Like they could go to business tomorrow and have to sell the land and another developer could come in. Like it's not about the long-term vision. It's about whether or not the official plan is wrong in its current state and whether or not the zoning bylaws need to be changed. That's where all those policy arguments come in. They clearly don't, right? Like, do you really want to shrink the lot size and add in all that septic? Like, clearly not. But again, that's an OLT argument that, a planning lawyer will get into. Okay, so lastly, environmental. I don't want to go on a huge rant here, but it's like a 200-page environmental report. I've read the whole thing. If you want evidence of how I read the whole thing, page around 89, 90, there's a picture of Rosso Springs. The picture is a pipe in the ground with a frying pan on it. That is your titular Rosso Springs. Read the whole thing. The argument essentially boils down to there are a number of species at risk, some of which will be cleared out as a part of the plan, some of which their habitats are either confirmed present or suitable. And the plan is to clear that while they're not there. So that's their big mitigation step, is to just clear the habitats while they're not present. I'd like everyone to think about that for a second, right? Imagine you get tired of Rosso winters, you get a Florida place, you go down to Florida for the month, and I come up and I bulldoze your home, right? And the argument in the FRI report is, well, you weren't there, it's not present, no harm to the species, it's okay, right? How would you feel about me if I bulldozed your home while you're in Florida, right? You probably wouldn't be very happy. And then the argument becomes, okay, well, there's other places you could live. There's abundant forest in the area, sure. What happens if me and my buddies bulldoze all that, right? Like it becomes a bad policy argument because you're functionally racing to develop. Because if the argument is always there's more land, people just develop more land until there isn't more land, right? Like, there's a reason that policies exist, and policies exist to protect suitable habitats. So I'll close on the the locality of the ownership group. I don't want to make this personal, but they're from London, Ontario. Little known fact about London, Ontario. London is known as, or has the nickname, the Forest City, right? If anyone knows that. So the Forest City, because London, Ontario used to exist in a massive forest. Who's been to London, Ontario recently and looked around and went, oh, what a beautiful forest, right? I certainly spent 4 years there. I didn't see a ton of forest, but, and I know that because I worked, I was a volunteer for Reforest London when I was there in London. So I conclude by, the Rosso Springs pipe in the ground with a frying pan on it. You're functionally considering a pipe dream here. Very clear. It's in the application, so I can reference it. And do you want Rosso, Ontario to be the next forest city, right? Do you want it to be, oh, how did it even get that nickname? Because it's so unrecognizable now, right? You're making a long-term planning decision, not a short-term profit decision. And those are the rest of my comments.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully this is audible. Yeah, I don't want to break it. My name's Edward Sellers. I'm here with my spouse, Linda. We live at 89 Little Morgan Bay Road. We've been full-time residents in Seguin Township for 10 years. We like to think we're community-minded. Linda teaches at the Ruth Dare Health Clinic, and I've been involved in the Road Association for the past 9 years. We settled in Seguin to avoid having a bit of Bramley in my backyard. And the proposal that's in front of us is pretty much aligned with 100-foot lots and cheek by jowl urban type development, which I submit is completely inappropriate in the circumstances. One nit in respect to the application, not that anything's going to turn on it, but it's actually not signed by Rosso Springs Limited. It's been signed by Mr. Holden Rhodes in his personal capacity. I think council got that point. It's common ground that Rosso Springs proposal is not permitted under the existing official plan. It might not be common ground, but I think it's self-evident. It's not consistent with existing land use and development policies in the township. And they've gone to significant expense, to their credit, in trying to find a way forward to be able to develop the property in some fashion. It's not to say that I think the expense was well made, but no doubt the effort that's been made has been extensive. A few comments have been made about the provincial planning statement. Full disclosure here, I am a non-practicing lawyer, so I've read the document. There's an interpretive provision in the introductory comments to the provincial planning statement, which makes a distinction between permissive and directive components to the provincial planning statement. And amongst the directive components is the word shall, which is contained in various provisions of the planning statement. And in section 2.0 and 2.5, which specifically deals with rural properties, it is stated that settlement areas, that's the defined term settlement areas, shall be the focus of growth and development in the area, whether it's urban or rural. It's been acknowledged by the applicant that they are not making a proposal to create a new or expanded settlement area. They are looking to avoid doing that, and therefore their proposal is not within a settlement area in the township. And I would submit to you that on a careful reading of the provincial planning statement, their application is completely irregular. So at the April 22nd, 2025 public meeting, which I commended Mr. Rhodes for convening because there was a complete vacuum of information available really beforehand, it was acknowledged that there is no intention on the part of Rosso Springs Limited to actually construct whatever might be built on the lots to the extent those lots might be created. That their intention was to actually create a municipal level access road and then convey it to the municipality and have the municipality actually look after the road. And of course, that was all before the proposed revised official plan was circulated showing condominium components in order to avoid that type of an outcome. But the stated intention is not to be the developer, not to build the properties, and to convey the communal assets, so-called, to the township for its stewardship going forward at our collective expense. And during that meeting also, it was indicated, I think fairly put, it was stated, that the intention was to have a purchase price per lot in or about $500,000 with an additional $2 to $3.5 million in capital costs associated with the development of each lot. So if my math is correct, that means we're talking about a low end of $2.5 million to have a 100-foot lot next to another 100-foot lot, next to another 100-foot lot with private water and private sewage, and maybe a township assumed roadway. So, of course, there's been some concern about whether or not this project would actually ever fly, whether it would be stalled, how far along it would be developed, whether or not it would be sponsored, would it be completed? And I've yet to hear anybody, really be convinced that that's the case. I'm not going to speak about hydrology. I'm not going to speak about the environmental impact aspects. But I am going to talk about two things that I think were underpinning the applicant's approach here. And one relates to Mr. Lyons' so-called housing report. And in the introductory comments in Mr. Lyons' housing report, he states that the property really is intended to be attractive to as a lower cost option, and for younger households to be able to avoid higher cost locations in the GTA. I have no idea how $2.5 million relates at all to the way in which that report was placed in context. And the report, although it does have some interesting statistical projections about what might be the need for housing in Seguin, doesn't really account for the up to 2,300 available units that are now the subject of a lot of activity at the township in the North Seguin development area. And nor does it actually address things like the impromptu but welcomed 187 lot development that a sponsored constructor has actually mentioned bringing forward in or about the vicinity of the North Seguin development area. And as a result, I'm kind of left shaking my head about whether or not that report has much validity at all. In the planning justification report that is proffered by the applicants, there's a characterization of the zoning bylaw amendment as a modest adjustment to the lot configuration that would otherwise be applicable in a rural setting. And there's a bit of a discrepancy between Mr. Robinson's report and the report of the consultant to the applicants. I think it relates to the minimum lot frontage that would be applicable absent a bylaw amendment. I think it's fair to say Mr. Robinson says it's 90 meters that would be the norm in a rural circumstance, whereas the planning justification report, I think, says it's 150 meters for minimum lot frontage. Regardless, the proposal that is before you contemplates no greater than a minimum 30-meter lot frontage, which is on one account 20% of what would otherwise be required, and on the other account 30% of what would be required. I can't imagine a 70 or 80% adjustment amounting to a modest adjustment in the zoning configuration of the minimum lot size or the minimum lot frontage. So to me, from day one, it's been known to the applicant and all those that are part of the application that this was not permitted, that they were going to have to do something to find a basis on which to allow this to proceed. And they chose to wrap themselves in the flag of housing, the desperately needed housing in order to really do violence to the land use and development regime that's inherent in the township. And they've done so in circumstances where it's, and I characterized it as this in my letter, it's a pump and dump. Get the rezoning, get the official plan amendment, but it's not up to us to build anything, and it could take forever for it to happen. And you're going to have to deal with that for whatever length of time it may happen over the course of 10, 15, 20 years. And You only have to look at the Woodlands development to the east of Huntsville to see how that's gone. Same type of process. Still countless lots unsold. And though they don't have 100-foot lot frontages, those are true forest estate lots. So the idea that somehow this is all going to create housing that's got any local need, anybody who's able to afford it locally, and to cure a perceived shortcoming in future housing availability when the North Seguin development area is right in front of us, just to me is a complete fiction. And as council suggested to you earlier, everyone in this room not a proponent of the application will be unable to have a further say in this if council decides to approve this application. And if you do, you may as well put up the sign that says it's open season on speculative development in Seguin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody left standing that wants to speak? Okay, let's go along the wall. This, okay, come on forward and make sure you identify yourself with an address.
Hi there. My name is Armis For Lewis. My mailing address is 42 St. Ives Crescent, Toronto, Ontario. But I also am here more on behalf of the cottage that my family owns and has owned since the 50s that is at 21C Maplehurst Road. So our family is immediately affected by this proposed development. 2 of the lots are essentially supposed to be in our backyard. And the very idea of this whole development is absolutely abhorrent to us and just breaks our hearts. And it completely goes against the official plan and their own apparent environmental first approach, which seems to ring entirely untrue, given that they want to go against the official plan and various zoning bylaws that are put in place to protect the environment. In their own reports, they admit that they don't think that large areas of forest are environmentally significant, whereas, having a cottage within it, growing up there, that's the environment. That's what it is. That's, seeing all the animals there and seeing all the amazing plants and just like the magic of being in that space. If this proposed development goes through, that's lost. And a place that I've grown up loving and I would hope to pass on to my children someday. 4 generations of my family have been on Maplehurst Road and just love it. And, in the small part of this huge proposed subdivision that is immediately behind our cottage, I've seen so many amazing animal species. A few years ago, our next door neighbors at 21B Maplehurst, who have a trail cam set up behind their cottage on essentially what would be the exit of the informal footpath between the 2 lots back there, they caught a wolf coming out of the forest there. If this goes through, instead of being a place that wolves might appear, instead we'll just have huge houses sitting over us, looking down at us. And there's so much about this plan that just completely goes against all logic and, environmental sensitivity and just so many things that they seem to just ask you to just trust them on instead of providing real good documentation or support as to why this should be the case. For one example, they, a significant portion of the lots they want to create would, under current plans and conditions, be considered backlots, which are discouraged by the official plan. They claim that they're not backlots, essentially just because they said so, which I don't think is a good argument. That almost half of the lots would either be entirely cut off by that figure or at least partially. And so that doesn't seem like a good plan if their only argument for that is because they're asking for it. And there's also a lot of concerns around water quality with the septic tanks that would have to be put in there. And again, their argument in a lot of ways is just, well, that's not our problem to deal with, and it's not your problem to deal with, because we'll just have the individual owners who are hypothetically going to be here put in their own septic tanks, and they'll have to put them at a really good quality that deals with all the potential problems. But that's just completely putting off onus on these concerns on somebody else and just saying, well, that's not for any of us to deal with, so why should we be concerned about it now? So there's so many of these concerns that we as the community have, and that I'm sure you also have, that their real only argument for is just trust us, or that'll be a problem for somebody else, which I don't trust. And I would hope that you wouldn't either. And, just the idea that we lose so much for this very hypothetical plan that doesn't align with the official plan and doesn't align with all the values that Seguin tries to oppose of environment first, is just absolutely devastating. And it would also set a terrible precedent in which anyone's cottage could just suddenly be part of a subdivision that they didn't want and they didn't consent to, and they had no reasonable expectation to suddenly become a part of. We've had our cottage at 21C Maplehurst for, again, almost 70 years. And it would break our hearts to suddenly find ourselves inside of a subdivision. And honestly, why would anyone want to buy property up in Muskoka or allow themselves to love Muskoka? Sorry, I get emotional. If there was just this looming threat that anyone might suddenly just be absorbed into a subdivision, that probably they're coming up here to try to avoid that kind of environment. So all I can say is just please don't, give these people what they want, and, hold true to the values that I know this council espouses and that the official plan espouses. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Anybody else along the wall that wants to speak? Go ahead. Yes, yes, you do. I'm sorry, you do, because nobody that's online can hear you unless you're using the microphone.
Okay. Green light is on. Hello, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Sheila Corkill. I have my cottage on 8 King Street, Rosso. Do you need the postal code? No, good. I just want to say how much I admire these people who got up and spoke, and how much I agree with everything they said. My argument was going to be that word housing. Please. I mean, that's a joke. Really? The people who need housing would not be able to afford the environment that you're trying to develop. There's just no way. So that's not an argument at all. So carry on, all of you. Keep arguing, keep pushing, keep being there for this. And I admire you all for being here, and I admire you all for fighting, and don't stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone left in council chambers that wishes to address council? Okay. I ask the clerk, has anyone registered to speak to the application via electronic participation?
Yes. Gustav Hersai and Zach Carlin have registered to speak, and I believe Mr. Carlin is entering.
Mr. Carlin?
Good afternoon.
Okay, could you give us an address, and you have the floor. Please be brief and try not to repeat what you might already have heard.
Absolutely. My name's Zach Carlin, and the address is 11 Cameron Road in Rosso, Ontario. I'm just going to share my screen real quickly, if that's okay. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, yeah, thank you, Mayor and Seguin Council members. Again, my name is Zach Carlin. Address is 11 Cameron Road in Rosso, Ontario. I will try to be brief and kind of move through presentation quickly. So yeah, my background, I'm an environmental planner with 10 years of experience, and I deeply care about this issue. As I mentioned, 11 Cameron Road. This property has been in our family for a very long time. I've grown up on this property, and I like to think that I kind of keep an eye on this section of land. I'm actively into the outdoors, natural spaces. Probably see me out there kayaking on Lake Rosso all the time. So yeah, deeply care about this. So yeah, and just mentioning all views are personal and my own, but I'm in full support of LRNA's position on this. So I think we all know the proposal here, 49 lots through OPA ZBA. We submitted a letter of concerns, which I will try not to repeat any of the points from that. But today I'm going to be focusing on natural hazard and heritage issues that I see with this proposal. So specifically with respect to natural systems, the applicant's agent has delineated 5 outlets that flow into Lake Rosso. So 5 identified natural system corridors that are in the larger Lake Rosso watershed. In my opinion, these natural systems are not being considered. As you can see here, the lots are proposed directly within these natural systems. They're going to be cut off, they're going to be fragmented. And I'll explain a little bit further on this as we move through. So specific to natural hazards, I've plotted out the lots that are specific to kind of east of Maplehurst area, plotted out, kind of the drainage paths associated with the valley slopes in orange, shoreline slopes that flow to the north in green, and then another valley system on the east side there with blue. So as you can see, showing the contours here too, the elevation contours, that a number of these lots are proposed within natural hazards, specifically the erosion hazard. And in my opinion, through provincial policy, this goes against PPS and the Seguin OP. Just using the Seguin mapping viewer, you can see that lot 43 and 44 are proposed on steep slopes. If you've ever been out there, you know that there's a significant drop off at this location. And so these lots are proposed essentially in steep sloped areas that should not be developed. This is just another cross section showing the slopes towards the north. So overall, yeah, in my opinion, there's lots proposed throughout the entire property that are within the erosion hazard, hazardous lands. Flood hazard is not being considered for some of the water courses throughout the property. There's soil testing that's shown shallow soils, previous landfill uses, and rock barren features, which should all constitute hazardous lands. And no development should be occurring in those areas as per the PPS. With respect to natural heritage, I've just kind of brought up a couple of the figures from the FRI report. You can see an existing delineation of ecosites, which is essentially vegetation types throughout the property. And as you can see, there's a lot of green, and a lot of those green ecosites are forested features. The entire subdivision is proposed within a forest, within woodland features. And it's an obvious negative impact to this area. There's going to be fragmentation. You're going to be cutting off water courses. There's going to be pollution. It's clear to me that impacts can't be mitigated from this level of development. So overall, from a natural heritage perspective, again, I won't speak too much about, our concerns from the letter as it's with council, but, there's an overall negative impact, fragmentation, multiple reviewing ecologists on this file, including WSP, which has been hired by LRNA, as well as Beacon Environmental. Have kind of, drawn similar conclusions, fragmentation, negative impacts. So I think, that's certainly significant. In addition, there's been some discussion from WSP and their report indicating that some of these features, or at least the woodland features throughout the property, should potentially be considered significant woodland, which would not typically be considered under the PPS for this ecoregion, but in the Seguin OP, impacts are prohibited. I won't go through all the additional environmental concerns as they're in our letter, but of course, there was nitrates found in the groundwater. There's been no wetland water balance study. There's anthropogenic impacts. Road salt is a huge factor in Muskoka right now with all the new development and everything, and so this is obviously going to affect the watershed as well. Another map just kind of combined, our combined kind of impacts from this. Happy to share this with council after. Rationale and land use concerns, I won't go into that as well in too much detail, as a lot of folks have kind of mentioned, these concerns today about, this development not being, affordable housing in any way. I haven't seen any Indigenous engagement on this proposal. Hydro One appears to not be engaged. There's significant costs and feasibility associated with, installing hydro throughout the development, so that it certainly hasn't been considered. And yeah, I'd just like to, the Muskoka Watershed Council is a nonprofit organization that looks after the Muskoka watershed as a whole. And so the Lake Rosso watershed, has been assessed by Muskoka Watershed Council. And their recent report card noted that we're really at a turning point here. One of the biggest impacts to this watershed is fragmentation. And if you just bring up the report card results, happy to share this as well. You can see that the fragmentation aspect associated with Lake Rosso watershed is at a very vulnerable level. And I think that this proposal is really going to contribute to that, declining. So I think, happy to share this as well if needed. So overall conclusions, in my opinion, this development, a number of the lots are proposed in natural hazard areas. They're prohibited by provincial policy. From a natural heritage perspective, multiple ecologists have reviewed this, Muskoka Lakes Association as well, all identifying that there's going to be fragmentation impacts associated with 49 lots within woodland features, ecological loss, pollution, cutting off natural systems. I just don't think it's appropriate for this area. And I don't think it's in the public interest. So in my opinion, I think all, natural system lands should be zoned EP. I don't think that's been specifically noted in this proposal. It sounds like the lands that have been set outside of development areas will remain rural. And I think that truly they should be zoned as environmental protection, and potentially, the property should be donated for conservation purposes given the significance. And I think the environmental reporting on this property has now kind of shown us, how significant it is and that it must be protected. And so with that, I would ask, Seguin Council to please reject this application and preserve this property for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carlin. We have one other name. Is he online? No. Is there anyone?
I am here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My name
Mr.
comes up.
Harsby?
That's correct. My name comes up as Gus because that's what I go by. As I said, my name is Gus Harspe. I'm number 3 Cameron Road. We're a family of 4. We've raised 2 kids in Rosso since 1996 when we moved into the area. We're first owners in the family. Countless dogs have loved the neighborhood as well. And I'd like to say how absolutely moved I am by everybody's presentation and discussions today. A lot of disturbing things have been said today, a lot of things to really think about. But from my perspective, there's a couple of things that really stand out. That just doesn't make sense is a better way to put it, I guess. We're talking about $2 to $3 million affordable homes being built that aren't on the lake. They don't have lakefront. The median price of a house in Parry Sound is right now, according to House Sigma, $437,000. That's not on the water either. So we're talking about a development that, from an investment standpoint, I just shake my head. I don't understand it. But I'm not going to judge people on how they invest their money. What I am going to say is, of the things that were heard today, the most concerning thing for me is that you're not actually voting for this if you vote for it. You're actually voting to silence these incredible voices that came forward today, because unfortunately, due to what I'm new to right now, and I've been researching it like crazy, I'm not a lawyer, I've been researching it since the first gentleman spoke, is that this really turns into a gag order for all of these people that have incredible arguments, incredible positions, incredible passion for the neighborhood, that if there is a yes vote, they're immediately silenced. I just want everybody to keep that in mind, because that was news to me. And to me, I'm walking away quite disturbed that that's how it works, because there's some incredible people making great arguments here to retain our community. And it would be a tragedy if we stopped it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, what you're commenting on is a process defined by our provincial government. So we don't like it either. Is there anyone else in here or online that would like to speak? Okay, go ahead. I understand this will be the last speaker, and then council will have an opportunity to ask questions.
Good afternoon. It's Holden Roads. My local address here is 29 Old Post Road on Morgan Bay. I live in London as well. Well, many of you have multiple homes, as do I, and I love this community. I spend about 2 months in the summer and whenever else I can. I have 4 children and a wife who also enjoy this area. I'm a status Indian. I spent 17 years practicing law, development law, commercial real estate, and corporate law. So I have a bit of knowledge about how development works. I would like to thank everyone for being respectful today in their submissions. It's really appreciated. It's hard to sit on this side of the aisle and get your eggs thrown at you, so I'll do my best to also be respectful. I've been lucky, very lucky. I've worked hard, but I've also been lucky. I've built several businesses. I've employed hundreds and hundreds of people in those businesses. I've got some great partners, all of which, but one, are local residents. One who also has a connection, all brothers-in-law of each other. I've known them for, many of them, for this period of time since I bought my cottage in 2012. They've also helped me with my resorts in Killarney. We have 3 resorts there. Spent $50 million investing into that small community of 200 people with those 3 resorts. And that community would be non-existent if I didn't invest there, because what was going on is that that community went from a timber to a mining to a fishing to a tourism. And tourism is the last economic viability of that community. We have dramatically changed that community. We employ 25% of the population of that community. And people all around the world have got to enjoy it and still do. We've had Viking come build 2 $600 million ships to be able to tour the Great Lakes and stop in our community. We have boaters come from as far as Texas and Florida to visit because we've created such a nice destination. And when I and our partners, my partners, saw what happened at Legacy Cottages, that's why we invested here. We didn't like what happened there. It was a clear cut of a forest. It was townhomes effectively put up. And that's not what we envision here. We envision nice homes. And in terms of being able to control development, there's almost no development that happens where the developer is also the builder. Just to clarify that. Almost every development happens where you sell lots to individuals and they retain their own builders, or you sell to builders who build on spec and build homes for individuals. If this is approved by council, we intend to register restrictive covenants on title that would put design standards, minimum housing square footages, design types, setbacks that are consistent with existing zoning, and even more restrictive. So in terms of a long-term plan, no, we won't be building. What it takes to register with Terrion, first of all, none of us have building construction direct experience in building homes. I have lots of construction experience. I also run the real estate practice for a company called Auto Canada, which is a public company out of Edmonton. And we have 70 dealerships across the country and 18 in the US. So I manage all of the construction for that company. So we will be controlling how the development looks and what types of homes get built. Builders will have to submit applications and drawings that we will review and either accept or not. That would then go to the municipality for approval for building permits, et cetera. In terms of the other development that was referred to, Osler Park development, that property is less than half the size of ours and almost 4 times as many units. So we have a very small development footprint on almost 300 acres of property. There will be about 25 to 30% of it will be the lots. In terms of the question or the issue that was raised in terms of a charge and our commitment to the property, yes, there's a mortgage registered against title. Most people have mortgages registered against title. I loaned the company money. I secured my investment in the company's interest. So that's why that exists. And then maybe I could call on Rebecca to respond to the environmental questions that were just raised.
Okay.
Rebecca's our environmental consultant.
Okay. Just one clarification. You said Old Post Road runs off of Morgan Bay Road?
No, sorry. Old Post Road is off of Burgess
Road.
on Morgan Bay.
Thank you.
So my name is Rebecca Govro. I'm with FRI Ecological Services. Sorry, yeah, I can. Yeah, I wasn't blessed with height. Rebecca Govro, FRI Ecological Services, and 1875 Seymour Street, North Bay. So I guess some of the questions, if I can just flip back through my notes. The gentleman who presented online, I believe his name was Zach, he was speaking to woodlands. So in this ecoregion, the PPS as it relates to woodlands and valleylands actually doesn't apply. That's just in ecoregion 60 and 70. And I believe it was in our response to the peer review, we addressed that just by indicating that in this area, and I think there was a young lady here who spoke up about why she loves the area and why she comes. We have a lot of forest up here, so it isn't a unique or different feature in the scheme of things. So looking at this property, we were looking at what are those unique features, those different features, and the features that we are to be looking at under the 5E criterion schedule. So we certainly do still value trees, et cetera. That's why the proposal is for smaller lots. So I think if we jump right back to the conservation design approach versus the yield design approach, the standard design to subdivision development, we're trying to avoid that here. So when the ownership group came to me for a proposal, what we did was we suggested, instead of just going, okay, we've got this 280 acres, let's just slice it up into as many lots as possible, then do your environmental work, and then tell us where we can't build. So instead of doing that, they flipped it right around. They waited for us to do some initial work and say, okay, these are areas where you absolutely shouldn't build. We listed those areas. These are areas where you could build, but you may need some setbacks and so on. And so we identified areas within the bigger property where it was okay to build and where it wasn't, based on the planning framework that we're dealing with today. So we're looking at the provincial planning statement. When we started the work, it was the provincial policy statement, but It reads very similarly. The natural heritage section hasn't changed to my knowledge. So we're following that framework, which directs us in this ecoregion 5E, how we are to address those environmental issues. So that's the approach they took. And now when you do that, when you look at why municipalities have minimum lot sizes for country estate lots and so on, the idea is that because, you know, as soon as you approve a lot, you lose a lot of control over what someone does on that lot. So if you give them a 5-acre lot, they're going to develop 5 acres potentially. Maybe they won't, but they could. But by having smaller lots where you still allow enough room for a septic and a well and a reasonably sized home or cottage, you're limiting the space that people can develop in that larger landscape. So this approach asks for some things like flag lots, for example. So your minimum frontage on the cul-de-sac is a lot smaller, but it's really just to have a driveway so you can access a lot where all those things can happen. So there are other municipalities, East Ferris is one, close to where I live. They have approved a subdivision like this, and you can go online and you can look at the subdivision and you can see what it looks like. It was a similar approach where they approved smaller lots, not on services, cul-de-sac road, and folks have those sort of like tucked in spaces, but they have access to the larger property and crown land beyond that for development. Another thing that was brought up was maybe the viewscape, for lack of a better word. I've spent a lot of time on this property. What I can say is for all of the lots, except a few, maybe when the leaves are off, I don't think you will even see the development on the respective lots because the topography does change. So if you're down at the lake, there's a whole lot of intervening, both conifer and deciduous trees and hills between you and those lots that are either above you on the hill or below you. So some of the land undulates, so there may be an uphill and then down in the dip, back out of the wetland, and on the other side, there's development. But I really don't believe you would be able to see from the road largely. One other thing for access mainly, and I don't have the number top of mind, but it's 30-something lots that will be accessed from a new road off of Highway 632. Those lots won't access Maplehurst or Summit or Little Morgan Bay Road. The driveways that come off of Maplehurst, they'll drive from 632 to their driveways. They never go to Summit or to Little Morgan Bay Road. So those people, if you approve this, those resultant extra traffic doesn't impact anybody who already lives there. They will never, they don't go by these people to get to their driveways. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I maybe had missed. Hazard lands. Oh, yes, there's a question about hazard lands. So that was one of those things we identified. So from a natural heritage, we don't go with hazard lands. So wetlands, for example, could be called hazard lands because you don't want to build in a wetland. So we approach them more from the value that they provided versus whether it was safe to build or not. That's for engineers to decide. So we identified all of the wetlands. So not just things you think of like open water marsh wetland, all the swamps, all those temporary wet areas, all the connections between them. And we set those aside plus 30 meters on all of those, with the exception of a couple of spots where we're accommodating existing cottage access, for example. That's a smaller one. Obviously, the road exists there already. But other than that, those areas were all set aside. Rock barrens as well. So the gentleman online had a presentation about slopes. Again, all of those areas are set aside plus 30 meters of the forested areas around them, except for one that comes off of Summit Drive. And there's a detailed explanation why that one is only given 15, but otherwise they all have 30. So if you look at the framework that we work in now, that far exceeds what other developments have done or have proposed. So I did read through the Osler Park Drive one that has recently been approved, I understand, and it does not have setbacks that mirror what's proposed here. In fact, in some instances, there's no setback on some of those features.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions? Councillor Fenson?
My first question is, how many of the lots are within 300 meters of the water?
Sorry, I just have to reference a map right over.
Can anyone answer that question already?
If you can't immediately answer it, could you get back to in writing by tomorrow? Okay, if you would direct your reply to the clerk by tomorrow.
And
Oh, sorry to MHBC, Jamie. We'll get the answer from you.
because my understanding is, the reason I'm asking is because of the type of lot it is, that the properties have to be 300 meters from the water. That's what I understand. So I'm just wondering how many of the properties are within 300 meters of the water.
Okay. The response to Jamie Robinson and MHBC. Council, any other questions? Councillor Brzezinski.
I just wanted to clear up something that was said earlier about pumping swamp water. Could you give me an idea of whether you're anticipating that the wells would be drilled or dug?
They would all be drilled wells. We've done 3 drilled well samples already, so they'd all be drilled.
Yeah, my daughter, who lives down the road, has a drilled well. It's down 425 feet and the water is pure. In terms of septic, have these or will these be approved by the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority in terms of location, so they won't have an adverse effect on water bodies, swamps, etc.?
That's a great question. And yes, they would be approved by North Bay. We have not gone to that point yet, because we'd let the individuals determine where they want to locate the house, and then that would dictate where and what size of septic system.
So it would be clear to say that there'd be no pumping of swamp water, and in fact, there'd be no negative impacts on Lake Rosso from water and sewer?
That's my understanding, absolutely. And in fact, with these new septic systems, they're much better in terms of their treatment, and as opposed to the ones that are actually on the water. That are older.
Thank you. The other thing, and my background is in environmental planning, and on our property, I've seen a bald eagle, I've seen barred owls, and I've seen a whole variety of things. Are these critters transient, or are they likely to stay? I guess maybe that would be a question more for our biologist here, but like, we're concerned about, once construction is done, are these liable to come back and frequent the area or not? Like, I know in my experience, there used to be a heronry on an island with about 60 nests for blue heron. There was a microburst, destroyed all the trees, and then they went and they re-nested on an adjacent island. Could you explain from your experience, is this likely to happen once construction's done?
Could you please go to the microphone? The people online cannot hear any discussion.
My apologies. For sure. So ecological systems are dynamic. So naturally, as you pointed out, things come and go. Often it has to do with weather events that animals can't control. I wouldn't say that anything specifically. The EIS looked at ways to seek to minimize disturbance or displacement of wildlife. That was the objective from the outset. And that's why there were so many areas identified out of the gate, if you will, that were just no-go, right? They were just no-goes from this approach to a subdivision development. So for a lot of those species, they do have some site fidelity, depends on their home range. So it would really just depend on the species themselves. But I would say that nature itself is dynamic, and I wouldn't expect that any one blot development would displace anything in particular. Where those features have been identified, for example, amphibian breeding, that will persist over time. So there are corridors and linkages for all of those things for the areas that we identified. So I would not expect for that to happen. Nests for owls, for example, I have seen owls that use an old eagle's nest. That gets blown down, they nest on the ground under a bridge. So animals do have some flexibility where they do respond to events in nature. So I guess that's the best I can offer without having a very specific example.
And would you say that not cutting during the nesting season, that type of a mitigation is pretty standard and common mitigation. And what is the impact going to be on the population?
So what we do is we follow Environment Canada's guidelines for the nesting zone that you're in. So the federal government is responsible for the Migratory Birds Convention Act, which protects most breeding bird nests and eggs while they're active. And for those species that we follow the dates that are provided by the government, and we use the ultra safe dates, so to speak. So the earliest date that you would expect an animal or a bird to show up and start making nest to the latest date when you would expect that fledglings would have left the nest and the nest area. So the dates that we recommend encompass all of those life stages, even for re-nesters. So you may have robins that nest 3 times on your porch, and you may have seen that. So those dates give a really long period to ensure protection.
Thank you.
Councillor Getty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Rhodes, my question, you mentioned the restrictive covenants. In your hydrological study, it references biofilter septic systems, references 2 of them, the Waterford and the Premier Tech Environmental. Is that one of the restrictive covenants that you're anticipating in the development for the complete development?
Yes, it would be. Yes, it would be.
And then the only other question I had in the Mr. DeLon's report for the justification, the planning justification, it says that the dwellings are designed to be built in a way that respects the natural environment. Is the plan to build them to the topographical environment of the area, or is it, for lack of a better term, blasting them out to put them in a site-specific location?
So blasting does occur around this area. We're on the Canadian Shield. We had to blast our road into our cottage. There was a very significant blasting that occurred at the midpoint of Morgan Bay over the last couple of years. We don't anticipate there being a lot of blasting because the undulation of the properties, I think you should be able to build right on the Canadian Shield, but I'm sure there's going to be some.
Thank you. And the number of lots referenced within the 300 meters is I believe, in the justification report. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to attend. Even those online, thank you for giving us more than an hour and a half. It's clear that the passion for the community is there and the homework has been done. So Jamie Robinson and council will take everything that was said today to heart, and we'll come back with staff will come back with a recommendation to council at a later date. So thank you very much for the time, the passion, the homework, and for being here. You're welcome to stay for the rest of council, but if you'd like to move on, I'm going to suggest that we have a 5-minute break to allow the council chambers to empty.
Thank you.
Are we ready to call it the meeting to order?
That's Swartz, right?
Yeah,
Swartz.
B.
Not here.
Okay. But do I have to read the whole?
No, it's sweet. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Switch over to Swartz. There you go.
Okay. We're moving on to item 5B, which is the purpose of consent application number B 2025-0010-H for Schwartz is to grant a right-of-way over an existing driveway at 128 Grays Road to benefit 124 Grays Road. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on August 29th, 2025. Notice was therefore considered provided in accordance with requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
No correspondence has been received.
And is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application? No. Has anyone registered to speak electronically?
Ryan Allen of Allen Planning Consulting, agent for the applicant, is registered to speak electronically and he's present.
Hi, Ryan. Thank you. You have the floor.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I am representing Heather Schwartz, who is the owner of the subject property at 128 Grays Road. I was sat through the last application, so it was interesting to hear all of the comments, and I think I'm glad I attended by Zoom because I don't think I would have found a seat if I wanted one. Peter Schwartz is the owner of 124 Grays Road. Heather Schwartz is the owner of 128. There is an existing driveway that's proposed to access 124. The previous access to 124 that was over 122 was removed. Peter Schwartz is on the call today if you have any questions, but I think this one is pretty straightforward. There's no changes to the existing roadway. We're just assigning rights of ways for access back to the public road. Happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Does council have any questions? No. So we move on to the item 5C. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2025-0015-C for Manchi is to rezone an environmental protection zone to an environmental protection exception zone to permit a private road to be constructed. An environmental impact statement will also be implemented. The purpose of consent application number B 2025-0017-C for Manchi is to sever a 680-meter long rights of way over the newly constructed private road in favor of 7 existing waterfront access only lots. The proposed rights of way will connect to Crown land and will require a land use permit, and then to Marshall Road, which is a private road, and then finally to North Sandy Plains Road, a municipal road. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on August 26, 2025. Notice was therefore considered provided in accordance with requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to these applications?
Correspondence has been received from Kim McMillan and Hydro One.
And is there anyone present in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to these applications? Okay, could you please come to the podium and make sure that the little green light on the microphone is on, and then identify yourself by name and your Canada Post mailing address.
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm Mike Bazanas. I'm at 108C Christie Bay Road here in Seguin, P2A 2W8. There was a presentation that was sent in. I don't know if it's easy to put that up. I do have some paper copies if anyone like me is old school.
I believe it's in the package. Just let me see. We've got it. I believe we do. Yeah. We, no,
Okay, we got it.
We'd rather not have paper copies.
Yeah, no, it's, sorry, I'm wasn't aware of the format fully. So, Mayor McDermott, council members and neighbors, thanks for your time. I know it's been a long afternoon for you. I'm going to move through this quickly and as succinctly as I really can here, and then we're going to obviously address any questions that we have here. Can I just have everyone in our group stand up? We have 6 of 7 of our applicants here. Really quickly, James and Jennifer Varga, James's mother bought their place 25 years ago. They've since become co-owners. Fraser and Linda Burton, relatively new members of our group, although Fraser's already talking about rebuilding and, oh, okay, thank you. He's already talking about rebuilding and retiring up here in 7 years. Fraser has a sister who's a quadriplegic, and a road would be, a blessing to them, that's for sure. Tim Reed, who's been up here for 25 years, and his family, Dan and Karen Alves. I think probably the Alves are kind of legends around here as business people and long-term residents for Seguin. They've been on the lake since 1979. The Boyles, their current place for 14 years, and at the campground before that from 1989. And so you guys, I know you've been sitting a lot today, but you can sit down if you want again. We also have 2 subject matter experts, Rod Bills, who's ex-president or retired president of Frycorp, and Savis Radis, who's principal with Plan Muskoka. So we have a group of cottagers here. As I actually, one more point. There's a couple that isn't here. The 7th member of our group, Holly and Joel Brown. Holly grew up on the lake. She's been here. Her father built the cottage. She's been here 50 years. She's a disabled person. She's not here because she's doing specialty type work today. So my point is we're a group, many longstanding cottage owners, Horseshoe Lake owners. My wife and I have been here 34 years. We built as newlyweds. We love the lake. We love the community. Sorry. Talking and handling technology has never been a strong point of mine. So, so we have some age-related challenges, some physical challenges. There's a great want of this road, but in some cases, there's also a need. There's also a real need. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history quickly. I'm going to move through a project overview quickly, and then to some of the rationale, some of the benefits. We spent 6 years in this process consulting and carefully planning. We started with your previous director of planning, Steve Stone. Pretty quickly became known to us that it would be much more effective to come before council with a Ministry of Environment approval, a permit. So we engaged in that process. Before doing that, we had to obtain an environmental impact study, which we did starting back in 2020. Rod Bills and his firm did that report. We then spent years in negotiation with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. We sought the best route through the wetland area. We focused on addressing the environmental concerns that came up, in particular the species at risk that were assumed to be in that area. The idea is just how do we protect the turtle and the snake species? How do we put this road in without negatively impacting the environment? This all resulted in this spring a permit being issued to us known as an overall benefit permit to construct a road through this wetland area subject to numerous conditions to enhance the area, to enhance the conditions for these species at risk. We were then also involved with similar negotiations with the Ministry of Natural Resources, who control the Crown piece of land that is our first section that we need to go through from Marshall Road. We're issued a permit from them, or working a forestry permit from them. A couple of years ago, and we felt that we had our arms around and we had a sense that we could talk to somebody. We reached out to Taylor LG, and we've been talking to him for a couple of years now. We hired a lawyer to confirm legal access across Marshall Road to get us to the Crown land. We had our environmental impact study peer reviewed. You guys know all about that process. At the end of the day, you have a comprehensive and independent review of the environmental report. We retained Savis and Plan Muskoka to prepare and submit a plan justification report to look at our project, compare it to municipal, provincial criteria. And that report at the end of the day is supportive. It indicates it represents good planning. We also engaged early on with the Virtue Lake Cottages Association, who maintain Marshall Road, and we wanted to make sure that our entranceway and how we entered it and the signage and everything was going to be okay with them, was going to be safe in their regards to other users, other cottages on the road. All right, project overview quickly. The entire common road that we want to build is 1,500 meters. There's a 300-meter crown section at the front. There's about a 680, 700 meter piece in the middle, and that is the subject of this discussion of our request. And then there's a 500-meter long existing right-of-way that travels behind the cottages. As I mentioned, we have received a work permit from the Minister of Natural Resources to go across the Crown land. One of the conditions of that is we can't start until October 1st, and we can't work after April 15th because they want to make sure the species at risk are not active. And we're absolutely fine with that. We received a permit from the MECP, and it, as I mentioned, subject to numerous conditions. I'll go over a few of those. I want to note that of that private land of 680 meters, 320 of it is the designated EP zone. So it's not the whole thing, it's 320 meters. Our road location, we've pushed it as far south as we can, and we're about 1 kilometer from the lake. And there's a lot of wildlife, there's ponds, there's beaver dams, there's et cetera, as it filters down to the lake. And that 66-foot right-of-way that I mentioned that runs behind the cottages, that's been in place since 1962. And that's the right-of-way that we wish to join this road to. The most important aspect of the proposal is this overall benefit permit issued by the MECP. The protective covenants that I've mentioned, I'll go through here quickly. They have allowed us in this permit, or they're allowing us in this permit to build a 10 meter wide right-of-way. We talked amongst ourselves and we said, we only need a single lane. I mean, you can see across 200 meters. We'll pull off areas at the sides. We'll build a 6-meter single lane road. We just don't need the 10. So we're proposing to reduce our footprint even from what the MECP is permitting. We have to install 1,400 meters, 700 on each side of reptile amphibious fencing, permanent fencing, to prevent the turtles and the snakes, any species at risk, from crossing our road. And of course, if you prevent them from crossing, you've got to find a way for them to get to the other side. So we have to put in a minimum of 3 very large culverts, which are actually eco passages. They specify eco passages. You translate that into culverts that are 4 feet in diameter. So we have 3 4-foot in diameter culverts. We have numerous other culverts. So we have access for the animals under the road, and we have a massive amount of redundancy in terms of handling the water flow that actually is going to go underneath that road. We have to install a minimum of 3 artificial nesting sites for the turtles. We have to put a minimum of 5 brush piles, which are protective habitat for small animals, snakes, et cetera. And all these design aspects must be approved by a qualified biologist. Rod, if he's still working with us. The last aspect of our MECP permit involves 5 years of monitoring and detailed reporting of the condition of the culverts, condition of the fencing, surveys numerous times during the year to ascertain whether these artificial nesting sites and brush piles are being effective if they're working. We'll also be obviously surveying this road to make sure that the beavers haven't jammed our culverts up, and making sure that stays clear so that there isn't any issue with water backup. We have a neighbor to the south who very reasonably has a concern that that there's a risk that water backs up and floods his driveway. He's a fair distance away, and we're going to figure out topography as to where he is to us. We think he's higher than us because water flows downhill, but we'll be monitoring that very, very carefully because obviously no one wants washouts on the road. The aim of all of this is to ensure the wetland species continue to thrive and coexist with our road. That's really, I think, the intent of all of it. And the environmental aspects of this project, yeah, I shudder to kind of throw in a number of $100,000 because based on what you heard from that first proposal, I mean, that's just a chump change with regards to what they're talking about. But it's very real for the six of us. It's an indication of how serious we are taking this. We're going to spend a lot of money to comply with these permits to make sure it's environmentally sound. The rationale for the road, enhanced safety, emergency services, much better quality of life. Anyone who's owned a water access cottage knows, especially as you get older, they're really difficult. They're really tough. Much easier, age-related and chronic disability issues, much easier to get in and out with a car. Easier, better for maintenance and repairs, much less expensive. Retirement opportunities, you can start talking about a longer-term seasonal access and even a reliable snowmobile path that goes through there. And people tend to invest more in their cottages and keep them up when it's easier to, right? The water access everything's a big chore. Overall benefits, I mentioned emergency service, quick access. There's economic growth here for the township, increases the tax base. We're going to spend a fair amount of money, we think several $1 million in the local economy, new cottages, renovations, new septic systems. We think that aligns with the area's growth and development plans. Proper maintenance of septic systems, you're more apt to properly pump and regularly pump your septic systems when you have easy access to that. Boat traffic will decrease. Mike Boyle's pontoon boat is like the freeway going up and down Christie Bay with the family and the grandchildren that he has. So I'm sure he's more than anyone looking forward to that. And we think overall, the project results in a benefit to the environment, the cottage residents, and to the township. So thank you very much for your time. Take any questions you have or follow up to address any questions that anyone online has.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Councillor Adams.
I noticed in the report that the where you're going is all supposed to be marked. Is it all marked now?
It is.
Like if I want to, is it easy to get through too?
It's not easy, Councillor Adams. The crown portion is, I mean, you can hike that and it's got some good steep slope to it. The wetland area is pretty dry. It's been pretty dry. Interestingly enough, I've surveyed all the culverts along Marshall Road because I wanted to make sure that our culvert situation is a multiple greater than all the culverts that feed that wetland. And none of those culverts had any moisture to them, like none. So we're at a really crazy dry time. You probably want a pair of rubber boots, and you probably, there's one main creek that runs through there that you can kind of leap over, and then the others, there's some little tributaries that you could step over, but you're going to get a soaker if you don't wear rubber boots. There's some local kids that they bomb through there in ATVs and they're kind of crazy, right? But intrepid types. But yeah, and it's marked now.
Can you get through it by ATV?
You know what? I have a little ATV and I have a bad back, so I'm not going to try it. I go through there once in the spring and once in the fall to get back with a set of ladders, that I can put down and to go over. But regularly, I wouldn't try it without. I wouldn't try it alone. I wouldn't try it without. Yeah.
It's just I would have liked to gone through it to see where you're actually going, where the wetlands are and stuff.
Sure. We could put down ladders and we could facilitate that if it works for you and get a side by side and We could.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Or you could see it from both ends. You know what? You could see it from the Crown land, and then we can take you via water, and you can see it from the other end, and it's, you know what I mean? So you could see it that way.
That'd be a better idea because my legs aren't that great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Taylor. or
I'd
whatever,
love to see where
yeah,
you're planning on going.
Sure, yeah. Yep.
Councillor Finson.
If you were to get the road, would it be a private road and maintained by the six of you?
Yes, it would. Absolutely. The Crown portion, the portion we're talking about here and the existing right-of-way are going to be common to the six of us, hopefully seven of us. And it will be maintained by us, not by the township, not by Virtue Lake. It'll be maintained by us.
Thank you.
Anybody else? What are your annual maintenance costs estimated at?
Do you know what? I'm over on Christie Bay right now. Been there 30 plus years, and we now pay $500 each a year for a 3.2 kilometer road. This is about, it's not half, it's not a third, and we've got 6 people versus 30 people. I mean, if you do the math, I think in the first few years, it probably won't be that high because it's a brand new road, but we're probably looking at $500 or $600 a year. The other thing is we have, I mean, I have a little mini tractor, like we're resourceful people, you know, if we need to repair the road, we can have a big load of stone dumped and we can do a lot of it ourselves. So somewhere between $600 to $800 is my guess on an annual maintenance fee. It's just to make sure that it's right. A lot of this monitoring and reporting I'm going to do, or one of my neighbors is going to do, but because my name's on the permit, I'm probably going to do it because I don't want to really run afoul of the MECP. So
I guess my question is, if any of the 7 sell their property, does it become an expense that would be listed on all real estate listings? That there's a long private road that you would have to sign into?
That's a good question. I would expect it would be, because we have a draft road construction and maintenance agreement done up right now that outlines how we're going to construct the road, the survey costs, the road costs, the right-of-way, all the various costs, and then the obligations. So we have a set of bylaws. There's non-reliance on the township language in there that Taylor provided us. And the fee will be in there. We'll appoint a minor, there's only 7 of us, so we're going to have a tiny little board of 3 people, I would think. And we will vote on, annually on the fees. We can put that in our agreement as a condition of your, participation in the agreement, that should you choose to sell, such and such will be listed on your property listing. But I hadn't thought we can do that. Yeah.
That's mandatory anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming you all bought knowing you were water access, and now you're going to be not water access. Are you planning to plow this in the winter?
No. As much as we probably would like to, it's a long ways. First of all, Marshall Road isn't plowed, and that's the responsibility of the Virtue Lake Association. And we have it's probably about a 3-kilometer run to Culvert 17. Then we have another 1.5 kilometers, and the Crown land, there's some steep sections in that would not only require plowing, but sanding. So the cost would be, it would just be too high. And even if everyone participated, and typically not everyone participates, we have a third of our association participate on Christie Bay, and it is an easy, inexpensive road. So no, we would put a snowmobile trail through that, or I'd put a blower on my tractor and I'd blow a trail through there, and we'd come in the way most people come in on Marshall Road right now.
One final question. Have you estimated how much each of your property taxes will go up based on the fact that you're no longer water access?
No. No. My understanding from talking to the real estate people is that your lot value doubles, right? Your cottage is what it is. Your lot value doubles. We're looking at spending you know, we're just talking to contractors now. We're trying to get survey costs. We're trying to, and, you know, we can only do it during certain months, right? We kind of have October 1st and we're not going to make that, but we kind of have until the snow flies. We're probably looking at $150,000 each to spend to have this done. Let's say property values go up $250,000 as a result. I could do the math if you gave me the tax rate, the mill rate, but it's
Will be significant.
it will be, eh? Are you guys okay with that? Speak now or? Yeah.
Counselor Fellner.
Thank you. I guess since you guys have been at this for a good long time, this is really the only way that you can see that would be an economical way to get into your property by, like, if I'm understanding it properly, you're getting an easement or a right of way from someone on a piece of private property,
Yes.
right? It's gonna get deeded to the 7 of you,
Yes.
correct? So it's
Yeah.
gonna go on title.
Yes, we have an agreement to that effect. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and then, but within that easement, it's crossing approximately 320 lineal meters of land that's currently zoned EP,
That's right.
right?
Yes.
Now, do we know whether is that an EP1 or an EP2 zone? Do we know what that is?
I think it's EP1.
Okay.
Is it, I mean, I have the report. We could definitively, you're pretty confident with that? Yeah.
Okay, so I know that in reading previously, a fairly, well, a really similar situation to this.
Sure.
Didn't affect as many people, but some municipalities have a policy with they call them net zero on EP. Is anyone familiar with that? We don't have that policy in place. And somebody's shaking his head.
Yeah,
Not-
I remember talking to Stone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
If you're going to speak, you have to come to the microphone so the people online
okay,
can
so,
hear you.
well, net zero means that in reality, if you got permission to fill a part of this EP zone, the EP zone would be reduced by that area that you filled in. It would no longer be EP, it would be a road or a trail or whatever it is, right? So some municipalities have put in place a policy, what they call net zero. So that means that if you take so many a certain surface area of EP away, then you create new EP to replace it. So you don't decrease the amount of EP that's available. And some municipalities have something, +2, +5, it varies. And I'm wondering here, is there an opportunity if in fact you were given permission to do this? And the net effect would be you're taking away a fair little chunk of, I don't know exactly how big this EP zone is, but you'd be taking away a percentage of it. Would there be an opportunity for you guys to create on the perimeter of this EP zone more EP? I don't know how to phrase it, an area of EP that would be equal to the amount that you took off. I guess that's my question.
Yeah, to make up for what is being destroyed. And I think it's 0.9 hectare is the 10-meter swath, and we're gonna be only 6. So we'll be, let's say it's 0.6 hectare. And I think the spirit of the permit, you're welcome to come up here and chime in any time and introduce yourself, Rod, but with the turtle nesting sites, with the exclusion fencing, with the brush piles, I think the spirit of the permit is to improve the quality of the EP that's there because you've taken something away. You know what I mean? As opposed to adding more. I'm not quite sure how we would add more. We'd be amenable to that. I just don't know what that means, and how you would go in and facilitate that. If someone said, hey, you need to put in 6 turtle nesting sites, that's the way to, we'd be amenable to that. but I've never, haven't faced that question. I'm not quite sure how we would do it practically. But at the end of the day, we think we're at a place where the environment is at an overall benefit. And at least that's what the ministry has concluded in issuing this permit. And so I think what we have is maybe a quality enhance of the EP while taken away. And I think the percentage being destroyed was a small number of that area. Yeah, come on up. Thanks.
So I know what you're talking about, and I did talk with Steve Stone initially about that as well. In order to, I mean, the EP zone was created from basically outlining wetlands within the township without really knowing the specific values that were associated with each individual wetland. However, when we were talking to Steve, he said, in my experience, I would expect that the species at risk are probably the prime value of this wetland feature. So he said, I suggest you try to get the permit through MECP first, because I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with an overall benefit permit, but the intent of that is the impacts that you create as a result of the proposed project. Not only are you trying to create a net to bring it back to zero, it's actually above and beyond that. So essentially, you're leaving that species at risk in a better position than they were before you even started doing the project. So yes, you could create more wetland, but what that would mean is we would take upland forest, cut it down, excavate it so that it was low enough to create a wetland. It would obviously create probably far more damage than what we're proposing. And given the fact that the prime value there is for species at risk, the overall benefit is focused on that particular thing. We know there's no natural nesting sites right in that location. This will give them a natural nesting site to get them off the road. So the value is increased in the value of the EP zone without increasing the size of it. So maybe that addresses some of what you're talking about.
No, that fully explains it. So that in effect, what I was trying to get at is there a way you can spin a positive effect?
Correct.
To using up this, and from what you're telling me, with the amount of work that you've done and the permitting that you've got to date, you can.
That was indeed
actually improve what's there now, and it can exist with a road. So that was my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, just for our records, your name and a Canada Post address.
Yep, it's Rod Bills, 44 Oban Air Lane, OBANAYR Lane, Corbeil, Ontario, P0H1K0.
Thank you. Councillor Bazinski.
No, I was just going to say I concur. Trying to reestablish or enlarge a wetland can cause more environmental impact than just putting in compensating structures. And from what I've heard, it sounds like the proposal has addressed that effectively.
Councillor Adams.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned too that you're cutting it back from 10 meters to 6 meters. So that's going to take away quite a bit too. So.
Yeah, and we did look at alternative alignments as well. And this was the shortest. And also it impacts an old beaver meadow as opposed to some more valuable wetlands further downstream. So that was the reason we picked it. Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've obviously done your homework. The next step is that this goes back to staff for a recommendation back to council. So thank you very much. And we move on to.
Thank you.
Finished.
Oh, I haven't finished?
No. That's to go to the electronic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anybody on the electronic that wants to speak to this?
John Stirk has registered to speak electronically and he is present.
Oh,
or was.
Sorry. He's had a long wait. Mr. Stirk, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Appreciate the opportunity to address yourself and members of council. My name is John Stirk, and I, along with my wife Andrea and my daughter Nicole, are owners of North Part, Lot 29, Lot 28, and Lot 27's Concession 1, with the municipal address of 35 Marshall Road. We have two matters of concern regarding the proposed consent application and the potential construction of a raised roadway across the environmentally protected land. Although we appreciate that there have been a lot of work and studies completed by the applicant, including an EIS, none of the reports appear to address the issue of stormwater management, drainage, and hydrology. Water from hundreds of acres upstream from this proposed raised roadway drain into this wetland and flow through the natural water course. Our concern is that the construction of a raised roadbed, which will bisect the wetland, could in effect create a dam unless adequate provisions are allowed for drainage. This area is susceptible to flooding during the spring thaw and after major rain events, and the water levels in this area are known to rise and fall dramatically and quickly throughout the year. Large portions of our driveway is upstream from the proposed roadway. When the driveway was constructed by the former owner decades ago, it was constructed at an elevation that reflects the historical high water mark of this wetland and allows passage year-round. Our concern is that unless there are adequate provisions for water flow under the proposed road at an adequate flow rate, the traditional high water mark upstream in this floodplain will be raised and could result in our driveway becoming impassable. Additionally, a possible change in the way the water flows through the wetland could have an adverse effect on the existing ecosystem, and there appears to be little or no reference to this possibility in the EIS. As a result, we are asking that the township, as part of this application, require that an engineered set of plans for the construction of the road, including provisions for drainage, provided by a certified professional, and that the road be constructed in accordance with those plans. Our second major concern regarding legal access to Marshall Road, which crosses our property. The Township Planning Report dated September 15 regarding this application states that it is the understanding of staff that the applicants have obtained all necessary permissions from private landowners to facilitate access to this parcel. It is our understanding that the applicant, the Manchee property, is included in the original right-of-way documents having a deeded right-of-way. However, the core reason for this application is to provide 7 water access only cottages and by default a couple of landlocked properties with access to Marshall Road. Additionally, the application states that the applicant and/or benefiting property owners spoke with Virtue Road Association concerning the use of Marshall Road. The Virtue Road Association also has deeded right-of-way for the road. However, as one of the private landowners whose property would need to be accessed, we have not had any requests for access, nor have we granted permissions. The road exists because the former owner of the property and a few other grantors entered into an agreement to grant a deeded right-of-way to very specific properties detailed on the deed of right-of-way. Neither the owner of the Manchee property nor the Virtue Road Association has the legal right to unilaterally extend the use of Marshall Road right-of-way to new properties that are not included in the original deed of right-of-way. The ability to access across private properties lies with the individual landowners. This is a basic property right. We would ask that the township require the benefiting properties, both water access and landlocked parcels, to provide evidence of deeded access for Marshall Road. Proper documentation and procedures provides clarity, security, and protection for all the parties involved, both now and into the future. We would add that should any of the benefiting properties not already have deeded access to Marshall Road, we, as one of the private landowners whose agreement would be required for a deeded right-of-way, would be willing to work with them cooperatively to that goal. Your worship and members of council, we have raised 2 areas of concern regarding the application, one being the issue of drainage and the other legal access for the use of Marshall Road. If these 2 issues can be successfully resolved to our satisfaction, then we have no issue with your granting of this application. However, if it can't be resolved, we would have some opposition to it. Thank you, Your Worship, for your time today and for letting me make these comments.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for him? Okay, so the next step is all of this information goes back to staff to come back with a recommendation. And it will be several meetings hence. You have one more comment? Please, because there are people online.
Apologies. Is there an opportunity to respond to those comments at this time, or should we respond in writing, or I can be brief?
You can respond very briefly now, but you should respond in writing.
Sure.
To our planning department.
Okay. I will be brief. Mr. Stirk and I have spoken, and we actually have a dialogue. I understand his perspective. On the legal issue, it was our lawyer that did the research to ascertain who was actually on title. The Virtue Lake Association is on title with the rights of way. Since 2002, they've been providing access through that property since 2002 to any new members. There's probably 20 new members since then. Our understanding, our conclusion from our lawyer is that if you're a member of the association in good standing and you pay the fees, then you inherit or you can enjoy that right of way. The question I would pose is, why would Virtue Lake Association be on there with all the rest of the individuals on that access, if the intent of it were not to grant members of that association access? So my point is really, this is an issue between Mr. Stirk and the Virtue Lake Association. If he has some broad legal challenge to their standing, we're in the crossfire. This should not impact our application. It should not have anything to do with the application. So that's my legal issue point. Quickly on the culverts, we have 3 48-inch culverts and minimum of 5 15-inch culverts that aggregate a cross-section of 44 square feet. If you add up the size of every single culvert along Marshall Road, all 17 of them, and those are the culverts that feed this wetland. That and rainwater is all that feeds this wetland. And I've measured them all, and I'm happy to get an affidavit from Virtue as to what that is. Those culverts in aggregate are 17.1 square feet. We have a 2.6 time redundancy factor. These culverts we're using are storm sewers. It is not sensible and reasonable to think they will back up so long as we keep them clear and we keep beavers off them. We would offer to Mr. Stirk, when we have a survey done, that we do a grading and we determine where his road is relative to our road. I mean, the main stream goes all the way along his road and then comes down where we're gonna build a road. We would submit that his bigger problem is beavers and the management of beavers, and that is the flood risk. So
can I suggest that you put all of this in writing to our planning department? I do believe from a road access point of view, it would be in every single owner's best interest to have it on their deed. But this goes back to staff. Staff will look at the details. Staff will look at Mr. Stirk's recommendation for an engineering study and all of that. It will come back to council at a future point in time for a vote, but it will be after staff has an opportunity to review all of the issues. Thank you very
for your
much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. I have a motion that the public meeting held for the following matters is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. There was a zoning bylaw amendment application for R 2025-0013H for Rosso Springs, consent application number B 2025-0010-H for Schwartz, and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2025-0015-C for consent application for Manchi. Could I have a mover? And the seconder, Mario and Ken. All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion. This is for the Schwartz issue. The motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application number B 2025-0010-H for Schwartz, subject to the conditions set out in the decision. Gail and Terry. All in favor? Thank you, and that is carried. And we move on to delegations. Gordon, have you been watching the whole time since 2:30? I appreciate your patience. So welcome. And I believe that, yeah, Craig is bringing your presentation up.
You guys are free to go if you like.
But you are welcome to stay if you wish, but you don't need to.
And you still look really fresh.
Are you guys ready for some fun now? Thank you, Your Worship and council members and staff, for inviting me to give you a presentation today to introduce you to the Bemidji Search and Rescue team. Our team has only been in operation for a few years, so I don't expect that you are very familiar with our team. But in the next 10 minutes, I think you'll learn everything you need to know about our team. Let's see now, how does this work? Oh, hold it, thank you. Oh, look at that. Oh, I held it too long. Here we go. So my first slide is just a bit of the infrastructure of search and rescue within Canada. These are things which I expect you didn't know, and I certainly didn't know just a few years ago. So SARVAC stands for the Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada, and they are the federal group that liaises with the federal government on search and rescue issues. OSARVA is the Ontario Search and Rescue Volunteer Association. They're our provincial group, and obviously they liaise with the province and also with SARVAC when it comes to federal issues. And OSARVA also is our provincial group, which liaises with the OPP. And I'll come into later what the important connection is between OSARVA and the OPP. And then finally, I'm drilling down from national down to regional. Bemidji is your regional search and rescue team, which serves the entire Parry Sound district, much more than Seguin Township. It's actually such a very large township, Parry Sound. No, Parry Sound. Am I saying the right thing? Township? No, Parry Sound.
Parry Sound District, because you serve both East and West Parry Sound. Yep.
Which reminds me that I know there are people in the East Parry Sound District that I think are a bit frustrated with the fact that it's even called the Parry Sound District, named after, I guess, the town in the West End. So here comes a bit of fun about search and rescue, which won't be too surprising to you, but there are some key points in this example. So I'm hoping that you'll pay attention for this brief little demonstration and an example I'm going to present of our basic role. Our basic role, of course, is GSAR. The G stands for ground search and rescue. We just like to emphasize that we are not involved in water searches. It's just ground searches. So this is how our team generally works. Our basic role is search and rescue. So the first thing is our team needs to be activated and will be activated eventually by OPP. This is what happens. Our character, Diego, he goes out for a walk, and Diego's friend, Dora, notices at some point that Diego hasn't returned. She gets worried. She calls 911 to report a missing person. The OPP at this point are activated about a missing person, and they start to investigate Dora's report. The next thing that happens are internal OPP things. So I'm speculating a little bit on what happens here because I don't represent the OPP, but this is what I believe happens. The OPP investigates the report, and then if they determine that there's a likely location which Diego may be found, and if the OPP has limited resources available for the search, as in they're not going to do all the search themselves, which they're capable of doing quite often, And the third thing is if the OPP deemed that the search is not going to be hazardous to volunteer searchers, as in, maybe there's a criminal element to the Diego has gone missing, then the OPP will call our team and activate us, and we will work alongside the OPP to help find Diego. So nothing too surprising, I think, for you there. But here's the quiz, if you're paying attention. When Dora's worried enough to want to report a missing person, she should call, and you're to choose one of these 4 options. Myself, I'm your Madge-Tune presenter. Or B, she can look up the Madge-Tune via our website, which we have. Or should she call OPP directly? Or the final option, should she call 911? Hopefully you've all noticed that she called 911. That was actually the right thing to do. Speaking of website, I believe you all have a copy of this, so you don't need to pause to take a picture of our QR code. We do have a nice website, which isn't simply www.themadgetune.com. So it's useful to either have this QR code or just Google the website, because to save money, we just have a Google site. So a bit of the history behind our team. Prior to the 2021-2022 period, there was no search and rescue team serving the Parry Sound District. There have been, however, search and rescue teams surrounding us for quite some time. To the northeast, we have BASAR, which is based in North Bay. And they were established, I'm not exactly sure when, but I know it was prior to 1995. To the northwest, based out of Espanola, but serving Sudbury, and then along the north shore of Georgian Bay, we have the Georgian Bay Search and Rescue Team. They were established in '89. And then to the south of us, GBVSAR stands for Georgian Bay Volunteer Search and Rescue. They're based, I believe, primarily in the Midland area, and they serve the southern part of Georgian Bay and east over to Muskoka. So prior to our team being around, if there were searches in the area, obviously the OPP are involved. And if they needed help, I believe they would have contacted a local fire department and to get the volunteer firefighters to help with the search if need be. Or the other option that they would have had was, especially if it was in one of our bordering areas, they could have easily asked GBVSAR to come in from the south, or one of the other teams to come in from the north to help. So where did we come from? It's all started in about 2018. Some community members began discussing the idea of having our own search and rescue team. I believe some of the reason for the team being formed came from actually volunteer or professional firefighters who realized that, we're firefighters, we're not searchers. We don't really have the proper skills to be involved in a search. And wouldn't it be so much better if, like so many other regions in the country, we had a search and rescue team as well? So finally, of course, there was this pandemic thing that slowed things down around 2020. But in 2021, 2022 area is where work got resumed and we got incorporated. We're now a not-for-profit corporation. We established our name and our logo after consultation with local First Nations. Our name, Madge-Tune, I'm sure you're wondering, what is that? We're not like, North Shore Search and Rescue or Georgian Bay. We're Madge-Tune Search and Rescue. So my understanding is Madge-Tune, and I'm saying it the way I think it's said. People ask me, how do you say that? Well, I say it like this, but that may not be the right way. It's an Anishinaabe term, which has a meaning something to the effect of to keep alive. And our logo, which was the first screenshot that I had, was made by an artist on Wissahickon First Nation. So also in that 2021-22 area is where we had our searchers trained with the BSAR certification. And I mentioned SAR 1 in there. We did do SAR 1 initially the first year as well, but we're sticking with BSAR. BSAR is a course which is given to us by OSARVA. And actually we have within our team now BSAR instructors, so we don't need to bring people from outside to do the teaching anymore. But that course was developed based on criteria that came down from OPP. So the OPP knows that if they're working with a BSAR trained searcher, these are people that have basic searching knowledge, and we're going to integrate effectively with the OPP. And then we also achieved our membership in OSARVA and SARVAC, which helped us also get our initial insurance, and some equipment was donated from other teams. What's my next slide? Let me see. Oh, and since then we've since achieved some significant equipment we've earned, we've accessed. Our trailer, I can't remember exactly where our trailer came from, if that was a bit of money involved or if it was a donation, but we have a trailer to store most of our gear with. And we had that for a couple of years, but we had to depend upon one of our members that might have a truck suitable for pulling our trailer. It's an enclosed trailer to pull it. But earlier this year, we were able to get a 2012 Chevy Sierra pickup truck, which is in great shape. And we invested a bit of money in it. So it should last us, I expect, quite a few years now, even though it's old. It had low mileage on it. So we're expecting many years of service out of that. And the reason I thought of it just now is with the last line on this slide, insurance. Unfortunately, now we have to insure a car or a truck. So you might be wondering, what have we done in the past few years? And we've only been around for a few years, but we've actually done quite a bit. So here's a summary, and I might have to add a few things to it. We've assisted OPP in one search in Parry Sound, 2 searches in Carling, 1 search in Sunridge. And then just this winter, we responded to a call, but got stood down before actually getting there. It was a search in Magnetamon, which is really the best case scenario. In that case, the OPP, got on site first, did their investigation, called us, but before we got there, they had found the person relatively healthy at that point still. So that was good. And then we've been put on call to assist with what we call mutual aid searches elsewhere in Ontario. There was been, now does that mean, I think on my slide, I mean once in Timmins and once in Muskoka. So 2 times in total that we were put on call for mutual aids. And then this gets a little more complicated. We are not just a search and rescue team, because just in the past year or two, Emergency Management Ontario has developed more of a relationship with OSARVA so that they will use our assets during emergencies that are not just searches. Because we have that BSAR training, they've identified that this is useful labor that's trained and ready and can do other things in the case of a community emergency. So for example, just this past winter, our team responded to the Aurelia ice storm, not of course as the event was happening, but within the week following, we were there on multiple days doing wellness checks in neighborhoods. And although our team wasn't called to the other one this winter, in December, there was a tremendous snowstorm that closed down Highway 11 in the Gravenhurst area, and GBVSAR responded to that one, and they were involved in actually helping getting people and their vehicles off the highway. We didn't get called to that one because that was actually Muskoka, which is GBVSAR's area. And actually, Aurelia isn't our area as well, but there were search teams from all around. GBVSAR was at that one as well. And even a number of other teams were involved. And then SARVAC, which remember, that's our federal search and rescue group and liaises with the federal government. They now are helping put ground search and rescue members to humanitarian workforce emergencies that are national events, which did happen. Let's see, let me go back to my slide. So we were invited to help in Port Hope. That might have been a couple of years ago during the pandemic. That was a situation where Port Hope is a remote community, and it depends upon having healthy young people available to support the older, fragile people in the community. And during the pandemic, so many of the healthy people were sick with COVID that they weren't able to support the elderly. So there were people that were brought in just to do things like bring in firewood or move water or something like that. None of our members got involved in that one. And not this year, but previous years, there was help requested for in Labrador for fire evacuations and the BC flooding. And then this year, Manitoba and Newfoundland, because of the wildfires, requested help. And we actually did have one of our team members go to Manitoba, and one of our team members was in Newfoundland. So what do we do in these situations where if we're not looking for somebody? Interestingly, search and rescue became one of the things that our member was doing in Winnipeg, because he was assisting at the evacuation center, which had some 3,000 people in it. And he described how in the evenings, basically I don't know if it's a community center or arena. I'm not quite sure what the building was that all these people were in, but a lot of people packed tight. The lights go on at 9 o'clock. By 9:30, 10 o'clock, there's a kid missing. So there actually was search and rescue operations that happened within the evacuation center. But in addition to that, because of our training, we're able to help out with site management, incident command, first aid, operational communications, wellness checks, logistics support. In Newfoundland, our member was involved in security at a site which had been basically closed down after the fire had passed through, but it wasn't open yet for people to get into. So they were just basically security until people were allowed to go back in. Traffic management and general labor are things that we'll get involved in. I wanted to let you know how we're funded. And it's interesting because of some search and rescue things that I've heard about this past year in the news. I heard a bit about how search and rescue teams are funded in other provinces, and it's not the same in Ontario. And you might have heard these things as well. Earlier I don't know if it was late spring, early summer, there was a really unfortunate event in Nova Scotia where 2 young children went missing. And I believe actually they're still missing. So there was lots of news reports about that. One of the CBC reports I read talked about search and rescue teams that were involved, and that there was some provincial funding for those teams. And I've also, now that I'm involved in search and rescue, I've been paying attention to some of the searches that have happened out in British Columbia. And there's so much wildlife and so many mountains and so many people that just go out into the wild that there are seriously search and rescue operations happening on a weekly basis. Sometimes there are daily calls for searches out in BC. And the BC government actually supplies a lot of funding for those teams as well. In Ontario, there's no provincial or federal support that comes directly our way. Now, I mentioned how EMO might call OSARVA that will then send us into a provincial emergency. When that happens, there actually is a bit of provincial funding because EMO will reimburse us for our expenses. So other than that, though, our volunteer members, they organize and run various fundraising events. Hopefully, you've heard about our annual Polar Dip. I think we've done it 3 years now. It's way up in Carling, though, so maybe you didn't hear about it. And we also do boot drives, and we've done other small things as well. And we're always looking for other fundraising activities that we can do. We did like a pancake breakfast once or twice. So things like that we run. We depend on donations. Oh, and we do also apply for grants. Haven't been very successful yet, but OSARVA is very helpful for that as well, because they obtain grants, which then they spread with all the provincial groups. So we have gotten grant money that way. So, so if that's how we're funded, you might be wondering, well, what expenses do you have? So our operational expenses, if you look at this year's budget, are things like our annual OSARVA membership. We have to maintain our equipment. I mean, simple things like we have to buy batteries for our GPSs. We have to wash our search and rescue vests that we wear. And now that we have a truck, our expenses are that much higher. I'm going to arrange pretty soon for oil spray for the truck. We're going to have to replace the tires at some point. So, you know, and insurance. And then we're always on the lookout for additional equipment purchases that maybe we should get that would benefit our team, that would make us more effective. We'd like to better uniform our team. And then we use first aid supplies. Even if we're not on a call out, we'll use first aid supplies in our training activities. So we need to replace and make sure they're fresh. And then if we are actually on a search in the region that goes on for longer than 6 hours, we're going to try to feed our team. So we're going to have to buy food. So surprisingly, all that adds up to about $10,000 a year in this year's budget. Oh, and I went back to our beautiful logo again, just to indicate that that's actually the end of my presentation. So now you know everything I wanted you to know about Imagining Search and Rescue. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to take those now. Oh, you know what? One question people always ask me, so I'm gonna answer it right now before you ask, is how many members do you have? You want to know how many people are involved in this. I just counted today on our app. We have an app that we use to record who's on call, who's not on call. And if I understand it correctly, we have 32 active searchers right now. Our membership has fluctuated for the past couple of years between 30 and 40. People come, people go, you know, they leave the community, they move in. So that's about the size of our team. Some of our members are not BSAR trained searchers, but they want to be involved in other ways that won't involve walking through the woods and searching. So for example, our treasurer is not a searcher, but we're so lucky to have an accountant volunteer for us.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Does council have any questions? I met you at something. I came back with your card and went to our fire chief and he said, oh, I know all about them. So I think it's important.
We do have members who are part of your volunteer fire service.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. So thank you for the service you provide. Hopefully, as a township, we don't need to go looking for anybody, but we know that we will have your backup when and if we do.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
I'm just hearing a joke here. We actually have a Diego on staff, so he's not lost.
I tried to choose a name that, you know, wasn't common.
He is not lost and you don't need to look for him. But thank you very much for enduring a very long council meeting until your turn came up. So thanks very much and congratulations on what you do. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive our staff reports as presented on the agenda for September 15th, 2025 meeting of council. I have a mover. Greg. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Oh my goodness. I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-073, being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency response plan and to meet other requirements under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and to repeal bylaw number 2020-119 and all other bylaws and resolutions or parts thereof contrary hereto or inconsistent herewith of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. And I see Chief Carroll there to tell us what's in this large pile of paper and in our agenda package. I need a mover to put this on the table. Gail and Terry. And over to you, Sean.
Yeah, so basically what this is, we've done a lot of work on the plan this year. So we've been utilizing the West Perry Sound group plan with some appendices for Seguin, and we've strengthened up those appendices for a Seguin response plan, including a severe weather response plan, a lot of the contact information and procedural stuff has been updated, including our annual HIRA review. Our hazard identification and risk assessment was reviewed, and the update is in this package, as well as our critical infrastructure review, which the update will be in this package for council's review. And included in this year's submission, it's an updated bylaw, which was recommended through the EMO that we bring forward and have approved through council, which just better supports our plan and our annual submission to the EMO at the end of the year for our program. And just on top of this, September 30th, we are scheduled with our emergency control group training session.
And then on October 14th, we'll be running our annual exercise in order to meet compliance with the EMO.
Does council have any questions for Councillor Getty?
It's actually not a question. I was just, when I read the report, I thought that I throw it out that there would be a benefit of most of the, the responsibility falls on Chief Carroll, Jason, and the mayor. But in certain circumstances, the mayor may not be here, and we do have acting if the mayor happens to not be here. So I'm wondering if it would make sense to, if we could print out and bind just the Seguin appendices, because there are a lot of contact numbers in there. As members of council, we don't train on that process as the mayor does, but at least have access to that if we get called in, was just a thought.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Getty, yes, we can provide a printed copy. So in the plan itself, I do identify all of the copies of the document and where they sit. So there is some printed and available online. I will make sure that there is a printed copy that's available to council for that type of situation. Yes.
Thank you. It was more for the contact numbers that I saw in there as well.
Yeah.
If you get called and if you have to help respond. Thank
Yep.
you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. I know this is a big body of work, and I think we're in pretty good hands. There will be some exercises happening in the next month or so. So thank you very much for all you've done, and let's hope we don't need much of it ever.
Yes, I agree.
All in favor? Passing it. Thank you. The next two items are from Forest, and they are for updates on the broadband connectivity and the vehicle charging. So over to you for both issues, Forest. Thank you for waiting till the council meeting got to your agenda item.
Through your worship, it's my pleasure. So we'll start with the broadband update. The document itself is fairly lengthy. There was a tremendous amount to bring council up to speed on. But in large part, if I have to impart anything on mayor and council, it's that the landscape around broadband within the township is a moving target. There's a lot of work underway. As the report delves into the fiber to the home, Bell and their corresponding project partners are advancing development of fiber infrastructure throughout the township in a successful and meaningful way. There are some challenges associated with bringing the individual connections throughout the networks, in particular around Hydro One-owned poles. But the township has done well, I think, in advocating for residents and businesses within the township to bring connectivity to either challenging locations or challenging situations, and advocating to different levels of government, project partners, and the like. And with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions around connectivity as it relates to the report. And yeah.
Does council have any questions for Forrest? There's one word in your report that understates what you're doing, and it was diplomacy, because I know you have been a diplomat with Bell, with the installers, and with a heck of a lot of our ratepayers. So it may not be in your job description, but you're doing a good job of being a diplomat on this. Okay.
Well, and the other side of it is this is a work in progress, and we will continue to experience challenges, and we will continue to advocate for Seguin residents and businesses over the next few years. And with any luck, we'll have a bit more of an update in the coming months from the province on this massive initiative. So thank you for your support in that.
Thank you. I have a motion that as per staff report number SI 2025-007, parking lot expansion of the Rosso waterfront project financing, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the use of reserve funds in an amount not to exceed $60,000 for the expansion of parking spaces at the Rosso waterfront. The funds are to come from the cash in lieu of Parkland Reserve, which is the park fund. I need a mover for this. Ken? On seconder? Terry? Okay. Is this you still? I think it is, Forrest.
It is. It is. And through your worship, this report is bringing back a request from I believe it was the August 5th meeting to come up with a funding plan for upgrading the parking at the Rosso waterfront for an estimated 12 parking spaces, 4 of which would be flagged for the electric vehicle charging and would be required as part of the lease agreement that we advanced with Lakeland Solutions at that same meeting. And with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions around either this report being limited to the funding aspect of it, or any other questions for the greater project.
Does council have any questions? No? Then I call a vote. All in favor? Thank you. And that is passed unanimously. So thank you very much for managing these important projects. 152. Okay, do I have this is just this is the fees and charges.
Yes.
It doesn't have a resolution?
Not at this point. You have to give direction.
Okay. So Tom, no, I guess everybody, Tom, Michelle, Dominique, everybody's got their fingers in the fees and charges for products and services. It's a very comprehensive and detailed report in your package. Does anybody have any questions? Nope. So I guess the direction from council is these go into the budget calculations as proposed by staff. So that's it. Thank you. That was easy. And now, Michelle, you're going to help us understand this affordable rental housing tax. So I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-072, being a bylaw to establish property tax subclasses for multi-residential and new multi-residential property tax classes, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. I need a mover for this. Greg, Ken. Do you want to explain it a little bit, Michelle? Your report was pretty comprehensive, but over to you.
Sure. As you'll recall, at the last council meeting, we had a letter from a ratepayer asking that we consider this. So I looked into it and talked to MPAC. These new subclasses came up as part of the Ontario provincial budget in 2025. We currently do not have any multi-residential or new multi-residential properties in the main classes, but setting these up would allow some flexibility in the future for the municipality if we have any multi-residential or new multi-residential properties that have affordable rental housing components.
So, and as Michelle's report said, by passing it today doesn't force us to use it. It just gives us the option in the future. And
That's
there was
correct.
a deadline given to us by the province by which we must pass it. Councillor Fellner, you have a question?
Yeah, just for Michelle. So it would be, we would, like, council or staff or, we would determine what properties were eligible for this new class or not. It wouldn't be MPAC.
No, actually, it would be MPAC.
No,
They have a list of criteria that they have to follow that came from the province. That's fairly rigorous for them to meet this subclass.
Right.
But what we can do is we can set the reduction rate from anywhere from 0 to 35%, depending on what council wishes to do.
And
Okay,
is
thank
it
you, Michelle.
property by property?
Sorry, I've lost.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Could, like, we would determine the percentage on property by property?
It would be whatever is put into that subclass by MPAC. All of those properties in that subclass would receive the same reduction, but council can set the reduction from anywhere from 0 to 35%.
But it's uniform across, say there's 5 projects that
Yes.
qualify, it's uniform across them. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All in favor? Thank you. It's carried. Oh, I have a motion. Wait a minute. Don't we first have to do,
To the addendum. Right?
no, shouldn't I
Yes,
do?
the
bu-
addendum has business.
Okay, so this comes before the other. Okay. This is a motion, I should explain that on, what date was it? On the 9th, all the mayors got together and watched the Near North School Board meeting together. This was last week. And out of that came this proposed motion. It's going to be at Perry Sound tomorrow. And it is going to, I know McDougall's going to do it. And I think the hope is that all of the 7 municipalities will pass this. So it's long, but I'll read it. Whereas the initial proposal was to build a new high school to serve Perry Sound. Whereas the plans changed to the construction of a JK to grade 12 mega school. Whereas the new mega school meant the closing of 2 public schools in the municipality of McDougall and housing junior kindergarten to grade 12 and a daycare center in the mega school. Whereas there were numerous concerns raised by the community with having all grades under one roof and that the proposed JK to grade 12 school was being built too small. And whereas it was discovered that many of the West Perry Sound community's concerns were withheld from the board trustees. And whereas the execution of the build of the new mega school has raised serious concerns regarding the ability of the Near North School Board to manage projects of this magnitude. And whereas concerns have surfaced regarding a lack of accountability and transparency in all aspects of this project, which is impacting students, their families, teachers, and the community at large. And whereas it seems clear that the current governance model of the Near North School Board is not working. And whereas the provincial government has set a target to build 1.5 million homes by 2031, and whereas the municipalities in West Perry Sound have been encouraging housing development, and whereas more homes means more children, which means more classroom space will be required. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby support the West Perry Sound area requesting the following. That a governance structure and culture be developed that is more accountable to the parents, teachers, students, and all communities within the jurisdiction of the Near North School Board. That decisions be made that support community needs with total transparency and accountability. And that a new public school be developed in the municipality of McDougall to ease the pressure on the new mega school, which is already relying on the use of portables. And that this resolution be forwarded to Premier Doug Ford, Minister of Education Paul Calandra, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Rob Flack, MPP for Muskoka, Perry Sound, Graydon Smith, and the municipalities and First Nation communities of the West Perry Sound and the Near North District School Board. And I have a mover. Carrie. And a seconder. Craig. Is there any discussion? Councillor Finson.
I don't agree with some of the things that they're saying. For instance, all schools in all school boards, I worked in the school for the board for 26 years. All schools are built to the population they have today, always. You can't build for populations of tomorrow in case it doesn't happen, right? So you can't build the school to, and that as far as I know, is a provincial policy and has been as long as I've been involved in school board. So unless you're going to change that policy itself, I'm not sure that that is relevant in this case. And anyway, I just think that, yes, communication was bad from the school board, and maybe they need a little governance check, but I'm not so sure that it was everything people are saying. I'm a little disappointed actually in some of the comments that I've heard that are coming out about this. So I'm not sure I agree with everything, but that's just me. Thank you.
The mega school was built to numbers that were put forward in 2013. And that is one of the issues, that it wasn't built for today, or even the day they announced they made the announcement for the funding 2 years ago. The numbers were still 2013, what was called the Accommodation Task Force.
From what I understand is every time there is an assessment done, like, when you go around and see how many people live in the house, those are the numbers that they should be using. Those are the numbers that we were using when I opened 5 schools in my career in Board of Education. None of them opened on time, just so you know. The trustees knew. It had nothing to do with the provincial government. It had nothing to do with the Minister of Education. It had to do with the school board solely, the principal, the secretary, and the trustee. Those were the people who made sure that those kids got what they needed before school started. So it was a communication issue, obviously. But I was always told that we did those door-to-doors and we could only go on them because I can see that it's going to be finished next week, that development right there. But they wouldn't take those numbers, right? So I've only worked for one school where we didn't have portables, only one in Durham region that we were able to have no portables. So it's a common thing.
Councillor Getty.
Madam Mayor, my question is in regards to the motion. I thought I saw that there was a motion I believe there was a motion being put forward out of Perry Sound to reestablish the West Perry Sound School Board. And I'm not looking to, but it's obviously an issue for our residents. So I just wanted to bring it up and see if there's any update on that or where that discussion is.
I can tell you that there is a group of people saying, let's separate Perry Sound from North Bay, rural versus, big city. But we were at the meeting on the 9th, we were strongly advised not to ask for that until the minister's report, which is due in 2 weeks, is completed on the governance. So we don't know. The other thing that you've probably been hearing on the radio, because he's been quoted or he's been interviewed several times, is that he is actually considering whether trustees should be anywhere in the province. So he's looking at the whole provincial governance, but the report for Perry Sound has a due date of 30 days from about 10 days ago. So it's coming.
Thank you.
Councillor Fellner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I was watching the morning show on TV this morning. He was on TV, and it seems like he's looking at everything, especially the big boards in Toronto. He's not happy with. I can't remember where I saw the document. I saw it recently. I was very interested to learn how much of the total budget that West Perry Sound contributes. And I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, that this township here pays about the same kind of money as North Bay pays per year. And I think the question, whether we go back to, our own board, or it stays whatever the structure is. I think what the question really is are we getting for
Value.
our students value for the money that we're putting into this? And I think that's the minister's sort of focus, I think. So, I understand what Councillor Vincent said. But still, I think we need to send a strong message.
Yeah, it's all, I don't have the exact numbers, but West Perry Sound, the 7 municipalities contribute almost double what the municipalities in the North Bay region do, but they have more people. So that it comes down to contribution per pupil kind of, and it has not been equitable over the last few years.
I would also suggest we have transportation, like we have more transportation needs here than they would have in North Bay, because high schools have public transportation there. We don't have anything like that here. And everybody's that 6.2 kilometers from their school, right? So I think transportation in most boards is one of the most expensive entities of, anyways, that could be part of it. I don't know.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Now,
Addendum item.
the
We had
next,
2 items on the addendum for business. The next one is a notice of motion from Councillor Fellner.
right,
It's in the addendum packet.
okay. So Councillor Fellner, do you want to handle it?
This is really short and sweet, because I'm not really sure. I'm looking to the clerk for guidance. I've done this once before, right? I'm simply asking council to consider discussing the current zoning rules regarding sea containers on private property at the next meeting.
So that's just notice of,
Yeah.
what's it called? Notice of motion
Yeah.
to send it back to staff to put it on the next agenda, correct? Is that what we're doing?
Actually, I believe it was a notice of motion directing staff to review. Right, Taylor. Hope I got this wording right, but Taylor will jump in on me if I'm not. It's a notice of motion to review storage containers, because I believe that's what they're classified as in the zoning bylaw, and whether or not to amend that. And then staff would review that, and that motion will come to council next time. And if council passes it, that's the direction to staff.
Okay. See,
So we basically give, if we're all in favor, we say that's direction.
That motion comes next meeting. You
Okay,
don't do
we don't
anything.
have to do anything right now.
It's in your addendum package, so you can
It's-
read it ahead of time, but
It's, staff will bring something back that then we ask them to look at.
Your worship, just a bit of clarity and guidance for council. Your procedural bylaw, council's procedural bylaw calls for members of council that wish to bring something to the table to provide notice of motion. Councillor Fellner is providing notice that at the next meeting, he intends to bring a motion to the table to be voted on by all members of council. What that motion is included in your addendum package today, and you can read it, you can discuss it. But what Councillor Fellner has done is following the procedural bylaw. He's providing two weeks or better notice to say, at the next meeting, I intend to bring this up for discussion and a debate and a vote to determine if this motion that he's presenting will pass or fail.
On the 8th, what month are we in? Oh, the, on, on the 8th of September, I had a Pumpkin Fest meeting. It's going well. Everybody's doing their jobs. On the 10th, I went on a volunteer cruise. Cheryl Bisonet and I, we were invited for working with community services. It was lovely, beautiful sunsets. We had a DSAB meeting, and the DSAB had a really beautiful report. They have a lot of really good things going on to do with childcare and such. It's a really worthwhile. Their CAO report is a really worthwhile read. Very good. On the 13th, I went to the firefighter appreciation barbecue, which was fantastic. It was nice to be able to say thank you to all of the volunteers and to the people who run the fire department, and to Anna for doing all her work. We planned a trip to the museum for the seniors, but then the bus didn't come through, then the date wouldn't work with the museum, and then, so anyway, we had to cancel. We'll try again. This is our second fail, so maybe the next one will be a go. And I've had lots of emails and phone calls. As you know, about tonight's meeting, there was a lot of people, a lot of them phoned me prior to. So it's been a little bit busy in that way. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Councillor Collins?
Yes. I also attended a DSAB meeting, and we will be, the board will be approving their budget on December the 11th. So that's when we'll know what our taxes are. Yeah, after us, unfortunately, but maybe Jason could, call and talk to Tammy and maybe see what our percentage increase is going to be for 2026. And of course, I also attended the firefighters banquet and was proud to see how many young firefighters there are, and their dedication and how proud they are. So, and I'm backing them 100% as always. That's it.
Councillor Fellner?
Thank you, Mayor. We had a meeting of the pool, Tamarack North Center, last week. Things are just charging right along. We're expecting the pool to show up within the next 3 to 4 weeks, I believe, and be assembled. And then that'll allow them to completely close off all the glazing and close the windows, close the building in for the winter. Looks like they're gonna do the parking lot paving, curbs, gutters, that types of things sometime in the next month, I believe. So it's, it's rapidly coming. It's rapidly coming to the day it's gonna open, which is great news. We've got, I believe, the operating agreement to manage the facility. We've struck some liaison groups for the user groups in town and the operator to try to get programs that suit the community, which was the intent of the facility. So I'm really pleased with the progress, and the contractor that we have on site has just been excellent as far as managing all the costs. I think we were really, really fortunate to get them. Dealing with a lot of calls the last couple of weeks in regards to a boating accident up in the north end of Lake Joseph. It was really quite a bit of a different thing. Anyhow, we've got a call with our fire chief, and I think Councillor Geddes agreed to get on. And one of the concerns is, and it's always been a little problematic, is when you're on the lake and you're kind of off the beaten path and something happens and all of a sudden everybody's really excited, and how do you get the best response? Like, how do you communicate that properly? And where do you communicate it? And so we hope to, I'm sure our chief is going to be able to fill us all in, and Councillor Geddes' experience. So we're looking forward to that. And today I went to the reason why the flags at half-mast. My friend Lenny Ock's funeral, very well attended. He did a lot for it as well. Yeah. Yeah, no, that was for Len. Town of Perry Sound and the hospital as well were flying their flags for Len. Len did a lot for the community, for the regional community, for the school. He was a good lad. So that's all I have to report.
On the 6th, I went to the fly-in. The weather didn't cooperate too much, but the group there did a good job of pulling it off for the day. A committee of adjustment meeting on the 10th. Also attended the firefighters award ceremony. As mentioned, it was fantastic, and number of calls. Thanks.
Yes, I fielded a number of calls with respect to the waste management study in Glen Echo. A lot of people are concerned about losing that facility. Talked with Tom with respect to options and what the impact was going to be on Brooks Road. So I was fairly busy with waste management issues this month.
Come on. On the 4th, I attended a museum meeting. That's all the meetings I had. I've had a couple of meetings with Tom. And I've had a few calls, but that's about it since the last council meeting.
Thank you. On the 4th, Ted and I had a business committee meeting. On the 6th was a little bit of soggy fly-in at the airport, but much to my surprise, over 2,500 people came in the rain. It was on and off rain, but the people that came had a good time, and there were the fancy planes were canceled, but a jet came in, and after the passengers departed, the pilot of that jet let the kids go in and see what a private jet looks like. So that was an added bonus. On the 9th, we changed the sign officially at the West Perry Sound Recreation Center to say it's now the Tamarack North Center. And the 9th, that same night was the night the mayors got together and watched the board meeting, which was quite embarrassing, actually. Then the pool meeting was on the 10th, which is the Tamarack North meeting. On the 11th, I attended a funding announcement with Graydon Smith and Neil Lumsden, the manager of sport. The CNIB has received $3 million from Sport Ontario to build an indoor, it looks like indoor soccer, but it's not. It's got another name. But it'll be at CNIB. It's a fantastic facility for the campers, but it will also now become the training center for our Canada-wide national Special Olympic training ground. So the people that are on the national team that are suffering from lack of sight, both men and women in 2 different age groups, will be training in Seguin once this is built. And then the firefighter banquet was fun. I think it was really special to see that the families were included this year, because the families give a lot. One little girl said, 2 times in my birthday party, my dad had to leave. So, that's what they put up with. So I remind you that on the 26th of September, before our next council meeting, we have the district meeting in Orville. I hope you will all be there. And then on October 2nd is the mayor's lunch. We need you to RSVP, whether you're coming for the lunch or golf or both, but you must reply before the 26th of the month. So hopefully you'll see you at both events. Over to you.
Thank you, Worship. Just wanted to share that Seguin's Public Works Department was very, very well represented at the West Perry Sound Association of Road Supervisors Provincial Safety Truck Rodeo held on September 5th in Perry Sound. Our very own operator, Max Moore, took first place and got the covenant name of Mr. Plow, qualifying to compete in the provincial competition later this month in Lanark, just outside of Ottawa. So congratulations to Max and best of luck representing Seguin. No, he doesn't get to take his own plow. I don't have the date. We also would like to take a moment to congratulate the Perry Sound Airport team for another successful fly-in drive-in event on September 6th. And as noted, despite the wet weather, hundreds and hundreds of guests came out to participate in this beloved Seguin tradition that has been going strong for 22 years now. Just a quick update, we are still accepting responses for the seniors engagement survey. The survey results will help staff design programs and initiatives that reflect our community's preferences. The survey is available online at letsconnect.ca. Paper copies are available here at the municipal office and at all Seguin Public Library branches. The survey is closing this Thursday, so please encourage those around you to get out and participate in the survey. Also, amateur and professional photographers are encouraged to submit their images to the 2025 Seguin Photo Contest before October 1st. Winners will receive Township swag bags packed with useful and beautifully designed Seguin branded items. And a couple other quick notes. The Seguin Fire Services is recruiting volunteers to join the team. Positions are open to those 18 and over. Training is free. Visit seguin.ca/fire for more information about how to apply. Humphrey Arena is back to fall and winter program skating starting this week. Adult skates, parent and taught skates, and a new homeschool skater being offered on a weekly basis. Public skate dates and times will vary according to rink availability. Please watch our social media and the website for details. And as council's debated and discussed and directed, the Humphrey Arena will keep the ice in throughout all of 2026. So groups are being encouraged to watch our website and social media for next steps on booking spring ice. I did also just want to share that I also did have the privilege of attending the firefighters banquet on Saturday night. And our very own fire chief, Sean Carroll, was recognized by the Ontario Fire Marshal as he received his 25-year service medal, quite an accomplishment, and received a standing ovation from all of his team. And I think gets the same from the rest of the township. We're quite proud of that and quite proud to have him as part of our team. That's it for me, Your Worship.
Shoot. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive board and committee minutes and agendas and the correspondence as presented on the agenda and the addendum for the September 15th, 2025 meeting of council. Mario, one more, Kim, all in favor? And I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-070, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of meetings of council, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Gail and Terry. All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn this meeting of council at 6:04 p.m. to meet again on Monday, October 6th, 2025, or at the call of the mayor. Gail and Greg. All in favor? Thank you.